I do think that FaZe are going to remain the #1 over like the half of the year. But I do think that the just because I think they are going to be the most consistent. They've kind of shown that over the even the course of the second half of the year, even though they didn't win anything, they were still competing for high placings apart from Rio. I think they're going to keep doing that. I think they're too strong for
10 seconds
for that. I know. But for the major and for the MVP, I'll go with G2 and Monacy.
Oh, okay.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
Your bet, your game.
Can they hear us now?
Yes. Yes.
That actually seems scripted. That right there, this intro to this episode, the first one of the year, genuinely seems scripted. But that is just another day at the office here at HLTV Confirmed. So I'm glad that everybody can hear me now. We're back again for 2023, and I hope to have many more little speed bumps like that along our journey. That adds the character to what we do here. Hashtag new year, new me, or not really, as we've already discovered, and I'm sure most of you are still using the same fucking resolution. Quickly, powered by Xtrfy. I was over having a look at their website today. They got a bunch of wireless mice on offer now, all different dimensions. Maybe you're an ergy boy. Maybe you're
You should get some.
yeah. I don't. What is the other one? Ambient ergy.
Yeah, those are the two.
Because in Australia, everything you say now just like it's just shorter. Anyway, go check them out if you need a new mouse or mouse pad or keyboard or whatever in the for the new year. BitSkins and N1Bet. Remember to gamble responsibly. And as you can see on the screen, we do have Prof in a Chiefs relic, I think we would call that.
Yes, it is one of the best esports apparel of all time. They just nailed it. This college, high school look with a very, very classy approach here on the logo. Absolutely beautiful. The colors, just the quality of it. I'm going to say I did acquire a similar item from another org, which I will not name. And quality-wise, it can't compare to this Chief Classic. Like this one that's 5 years old is still better than the one I got like 6 months ago. I'm just going to say this is top tier shit.
And
the organization.
Yeah, this here does conclude Prof's fashion segment of the show that will become a weekly. We'll see what he wears every week, and we'll ask him a couple questions about it and see if he can be as passionate about other articles of clothing as this Chiefs college jacket. Now, that's great. I'm glad that we've been able to get that quality out of the way there, Prof. I'm sure everybody really knows that it's some of the best in the world. He got it in there. He slipped it in there. Don't you worry about that. He's not messing about it. Most of you missed it. That's why I had to back him up. Striker, Is there anything new for you? Have you stolen any other office equipment? The printer looking relatively lonely right now.
I think I need to go somewhere and get some more.
Do more things.
Yeah, exactly.
Award show is gonna be. I'm gonna give a heads up to the space guys to make sure everything's intact when we leave. There's no like fucking water heaters or electric kettles missing, for example.
We'll get an inventory going.
Yeah.
Strikers' bags will be checked. And a man who's not on his bike but does like to ride bikes. I can see the bike in the background. I'm not sure if everybody at home can. I don't think they can. Oh, no, they can now. That one looks like it is. Is that an outdoor bike there, Jacob?
Chef, that's an outdoor bike.
An outdoor bike. Okay.
Yes, you usually do go outdoors. Exactly.
Yeah. You do, yeah. They work best outdoors, actually. But
so how does it fare outdoors? It looks like it's got some chunky tires. Does that get you through the rain and the mud that Denmark has to offer?
Yeah, it's actually best to stay inside when it's raining and when it's cold weather. So
where's
right now,
the inside bike?
Well, the inside bike that's the mechanic right now. So that's a bit of a mess, yeah. But it's okay.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to know about the bikes. Lucas, after your little goof and gaff to start the show, it's a funny one, April 1st and all that. Do you have anything else in store for us here today? Any other Easter eggs, any other trap doors, anything along those lines?
No, I hope it works. That's it.
That's what we want to hear.
The word of the day. I hope it works.
Okay. Love that confidence right there.
Okay, this is good. We're picking up where we left off. And I think to continue to do so, everyone's favorite, Lucas, roll the bumper. Let's get into the recent news. All right, look, we're back. Everybody had a bit of a fancy-smancy time off, I hope. You know, everyone at home who's watching, maybe those of you who are listening in the future from now. I hope you enjoyed your Christmas, or let's go with festive period. I want to make sure everyone's included in that, and as well as the holidays and New Year's. But maybe you're from China and you celebrate that in some couple months' time. So we'll just not a year. It's only a couple months, I believe. But regardless, we're covering off all the bases. We want to keep people as happy as possible, and I hope everybody's feeling good. I hope everyone's ready for another year of Counter-Strike, because today we're going to be sinking our teeth into some bits and bobs that have been going down across the course of the break. Now, Mr. Prof, the first little item here on the agenda, and for those maybe who aren't too, let's say, up to speed on what's going to be going on with the HLTV award show, it's happening in 6 days. It's in Sweden. We might have some players on site and live audience, all that jazz. But what else do they need to know?
Well, I think, we'll have a bunch of players. We'll put out like a list of people that will be there in a day or two, I guess. I can say so far from the nominees that we have, at least 50% will be present. So that's kind of cool. We did put out a list of some of the people, like the originally confirmed guests of honor and stuff like that, like Forrest, Get Right, and some of these people. I can confirm, I think Pasha even tweeted that he's coming. So he's added to the list together with Snacks. We'll have like a mini VP reunion there in Neo as well. A bunch of casters as well. Some of the well-known people are going to be around. So yeah, a bunch of people will be there.
There'll be a bunch of people there, maybe a bunch of bananas to keep everybody with the energy necessary for a long night of awards. Because as part of that, there's these panel awards. I saw that there's the nominees for the final categories are out as well. There's some big discussions going on, Striker, and everybody turns to you here, mate, as the stats man. G2 top 3 team of the year in the discussion. Do you have anything to say for yourself?
I can't really speak to that because we're gonna have kind of like a bigger piece about the whole top 10. But basically the top 3 was determined based on like ranking gains throughout the year, or like the nominations, and then obviously the team of the year as well. Was determined based on, there was nothing subjective about it. It is how the ranking went throughout the year and how many points they gained, both in total and like on average per tournament at the top events.
So as usual, deflecting, unable to get to the core here.
I mean, I think when we put out the article and you see like all of the points and how teams are distributed, I think it's gonna make sense. Obviously, it's always like someone can argue about, does this person deserve the 25th spot or the 15th spot or the 18th? But I don't think it. I think it's a bit of recency bias, and of course, maybe, you know, they missed out on some big events. Obviously, like the majors have been really shit for G2, but they also had a lot of good placings overall, and they ended up the year with winning, well, like a prestigious tournament. So I don't think, if people are going to complain about them in the top 3, okay, but like they're definitely a top 5 team over the year. Like when you look at it, it's hard to argue against that, I think.
Yeah. Well, people, you know, it's difficult to you know, get everybody happy. That's just the way the world is. Now, Jacob, how do you feel about this, mate? We set you up on your outdoor bike. We set you off from Denmark, and you ride down. How many days will it take you? We do it for charity. You know, we'll get Prof. He can get a charity on board, and then people at home, they can donate, and we have a film crew go with you. It can be Lucas in the back of his car, and he can just record updates on the day-to-day, and you ride down to the award show, and you ride into the award show as we start on the bike. What do you think?
He brings a trophy with him.
Yes.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't discussed that before, Prof.
Honestly, this seems like an idea. How long would it take for you to bike in January?
It's in Stockholm, right?
Yeah, from Copenhagen to Stockholm.
In Stockholm, yeah. I'm actually going up. I need to take the ferry as well. It can probably be done in 3 days, 4 days, maybe, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is with sleeping or no sleeping?
With sleeping, yeah. With sleeping.
Ah, that's kind of lame, honestly.
No, but this is what we'd have to provide, Prof. I want like a massage team, right? Because his legs by the end of like probably a 12-day worth of cycling going to be fucking wrecked. So he's going to need that. We're going to need Lucas is going to have to travel with a portable streaming kit. So when Jacob gets there, he can do 4 hours of fucking streaming, because this guy is just an animal. The amount of shit he's doing like a Mark Wahlberg type thing. This guy, he's fucking up at 7 a.m. He's in the gym. He's streaming. He's running a marathon. I fucking know. He can never keep up with what Pimp's doing. But can we get I basically took that idea. There's a show in Australia called The Footy Show, and it's about AFL. They actually have one for rugby as well. But a guy rode across Australia for charity to when they had their like end of year like final episode, and that's that popped into my head when Jake
honestly seems like something seems interesting. Like I feel like we could sell this to someone. Someone would want to pay for this. There could be hype about it. I feel like it could be a thing. Like obviously not this year, but next year.
Listen, I'm down. But can we please, you know, arrange the award show somewhere warm then? Not in Sweden. You know? That'd be great.
Well, if we put the award show in Australia, Jacob, I don't know how many days it would take you to ride there, mate. It's probably a bad idea. A couple of issues. Oh shit. Even getting down to Dubai or something like that might be a little bit difficult. Okay. So do you want to talk any more about these?
I think, yeah, just as something to mention is for the average viewer and people on Twitter, things that people didn't maybe pick up on as much is like kind of the difference between like the HLTV awards and the ones picked by the panel.
Yep.
Which is something we split purposefully because some things are really hard to decide based on stats and stuff like that, which is kind of our like baseline for how we do stuff. Of course, there is more to it than just looking at the rating, but stuff like the IGL and Coach of the Year, we wanted to get like opinions of like pros and talent and stuff like that. So we have a panel of 31 people that voted on those. And so then some people are like, oh, why did HLTV put, I don't know, Blade here? It's like, we didn't put anyone, right? We just gave the opportunity for people to vote. They voted, and these are the people that got the most points based on that voting system. And I think the system itself it's pretty simple. It's like number 1, number 2, number 3, and then you get like 5, 3, and 1 point for each person. It's added up, and then we get the winner essentially.
I've just sent Lucas the list of the people who are on that panel that you were referencing. We're talking like names like Glaive, Nafany, Rops is on here, Cadian's on here, right? So it's a diverse list of players.
We're not gonna put out who voted for who, and I think we shouldn't ever, just so people can remain,
anonymous in it. Okay.
Yeah, and not gain any drama between teammates and stuff like that. But some of the votes are so I wish I could share some of the votes because it's very interesting. Some people that like or don't like each other, and then you look at have they voted for each other, and then it doesn't really align sometimes. It's great. I'll have to go to the grave with this, unfortunately.
Okay, well, you get to know the insider information. And one other link I'll just quickly shoot over to you, Lucas, as we round up the conversation here about the top 20. A nice little graphic that HLTV put out. I'll put it here in the chat for everybody if everyone wants to have a look at it as well. But it's the top 20 so far. Jacob, have there been any big surprises here for you? I can't really ask Striker. He knows too much. So I don't know if you've been keeping up to date with the top 20. But is there anything here leaping off the page at you going, fuck, how did this guy get this position? Or anything seeming a bit odd?
Not really, to be honest. I think the only thing I raised an eyebrow was maybe twist placement. You know, I thought actually he was going to be a bit higher, but there's so many, I feel like there's so many nuances. There's so many things that I don't know enough about, you know, in terms of how you rank these and how you evaluate a player throughout the entire year. I think what I do and most of us, you know, watching this rank do is that we have a bit of recency bias as well when we look at a ranking like this. So it's hard to, you know, on top of your mind, look throughout the entire year and know and procast how it should have been done or how it shouldn't. So I actually have surprisingly a lot of faith in the people behind doing this. So not really a big surprise for me.
Okay, so you're not representing the forums here at all because apparently it's rigged. There's going to be 3 G2 players in the top 20. This is rigged.
But then you have to consider. But then you have to consider the bottom, the bottom part of that. You know, like if you look at, let's say, the negative contributions of some of the players, then you know maybe it matches up a little bit more. I mean, at the same time, like you know, you have if you look at, it's not like this necessarily it plays a part, but at least it kind of like helps explain things. Is how good a team was and how many players they ended up having in the top. You know, like obviously FaZe. I don't think I'm really
spoiling.
Are you giving away anything to say that Rops and
I'm
Broke is still going to be in the top 20? Are you, mate?
I'm not saying anything. I didn't say that. You said that.
Ow.
No, but I mean, I'm not spoiling anything in that. I mean, it's obvious that FaZe are going to have the biggest representation, and they were by far the best team. So like results wise. So there we go.
Yeah. I think, again, you know, you're attempting to deflect and not use any forms of logic here, Striker. So it's very difficult to take what you're saying
Look,
a lot of the time seriously.
Once we're done with the whole list, we can speak a little bit more in detail. But I mean,
I'm being facetious. There's only so much you could say. I get it. Everybody, but that's the thing. People with their blinders, their internal biasy, they don't see the forest for the tree.
The biggest ones that I saw like complaints about, I guess this is a question for you, Pimp, from your kind of first thought. How would you rate like twists versus Rops in this year?
Oh, it's tough, right? Because I feel like their roles and the way they contribute in a game is very very different. I feel like personally, I always felt, you know, with a guy like Twist on your team, he's the first guy, or he's the guy creating around, and Rops is only really being put in play if his teammates does well. Like Rops is not creating much on his own, and again, that's, you know, put on the line as well, because of course he can clutch, and of course he can't be the guy sometimes opening up around. But I do feel like players who are facilitating the rest of the team, or players who are facilitating a guy like Rops, you know, often goes a little bit missing in the whole stats universe. I feel like a guy like Twist is playing roles that is so hard to quantify compared to a guy like Rops, where if his teammates are not doing well, if Kerrigan Twist is not creating enough space for Rops, then all of a sudden you see Rops just save and get a lot of kills by saving. Whereas if the team is doing well, and if you're putting Rops in a 2v2 and a 3v3, you know you get the best out of him. So I do feel Twist is a way more impactful player than Rops would be in my mind, but it's hard to quantify.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that what you were just talking about with kind of like getting kills through saving and just kind of like how much of their stats they get through losses, this is something that is like kind of a fairly substantial factor in deciding these players. That actually came into play with some of these. Like blameF would be probably the best example at this point. He not only had just the sample size that was just completely lacking compared to pretty much the rest of the field because of Astralis just not having a very good year and barely playing deep into any of the tournaments, right? But his as much as he was very important in Astralis' wins, he also kind of boosted his stats through the losses, you know, and damage in losses and kills and losses. And that is something we can see. That is something we did take into consideration. And that's why essentially he was bumped quite far below what his stats necessarily look like, you know, because he looks like he should be part of like the big five on just pure stats alone, but the sample size combined with what I was just talking about with kind of like how he boosts his stats a little bit, that just bumped him down, you know.
Makes sense. I actually have a question in regards to that, if I may, right? I saw Wu, he put out the whole stat for players, how well they did against Eco and how well they did against spy rounds. Is that something you taking into consideration or looked at? Because there was some players who had quite a significant, you know, difference in terms of how many frags did they actually rack up against low buys or Ecos contra full buy rounds.
Yeah, that is something that's kind of like a line of stat against like I don't know exactly the line of stat that is, like what the threshold is for like equipment value or whatever. But that is something that is like trackable, and that is something that actually went into the discussion in some of the players. I don't remember which ones at this like off the top of my head, but I remember that was a conversation we had.
Cool.
Yeah, this is one of those things where there's always so much, like, everybody has different opinions on where they think players should be and stuff, and I think that's fine, and I think that's half the fun of it, is all the conversation, everything that seems to come in about and around it. And the thing is, the HLTV rankings and the HLTV top 20, and even though that I'm right now the host of the show, I can take myself away from this. I think most people would still say that this is the gold standard, right? Like the rankings for the top 20 and the rankings for the teams, and that's what everybody seems to look at, because it's the ones that have always been the most legitimate. That's just kind of the way it's been looked at.
It's legitimacy and it's consistency, right? So even if you think that maybe like 1 year this guy would needed to be like 3 spots higher, or this guy was like not supposed to be number 2, he was supposed to be number 1. If you have like 10 years, which we now have in CSGO of the rankings, and they're like 90%, good by on average, if you ask people, like they're gonna agree with like 90% of it, then we're doing a good job. I think that's kind of why it is important and relevant.
I just want to say that we didn't help with kind of like how seriously people take it now, with the fact that we just put in the bold not the bold predictions, but like the predictions game for the top 20 and the prizes to go along with that. Because now everybody fucking like has an opinion, because they put together the predictions, and they're like, oh, I missed this guy by 1 spot. Oh, this is why he was supposed to be there, And and so like people make such a big deal out of like 1 or 2 spots of difference, that's like realistically was a very like close race anyway, like
I mean, even some
both
of the
answers are technically right, like it wouldn't be such a big deal if you put one or the other.
I think that was kind of explained in the Spinx and Frozen, right? It's like in the description for Bit, it was like these 3 players are essentially like 16 A, B, C, right? They were all
right.
It was like minimum differences between them. So
I think maybe some of these were extremely minute. Like it would have been like there would have been a case made for like some of these to go slightly differently. But we have our factors that we consider more important, like big matches, performance in that, and like impact, like more direct impact on their team's wins and things like that kind of like play into that consideration, and like how well they played against top teams. Like some of these like quote unquote tiebreakers that we use, like sometimes they literally were that. Like we just looked at something that because 2 players were very similar to each other in terms of overall stats or maybe the awards and things like that, and so like there has to be something that decides, and we do try to be as consistent in that as possible, but it's not always the same. Like there's so much taken into consideration that it's not always going to be the exact same situation between these 2 players and these 2 players, even though it looks kind of similar. Maybe the stats gap is much bigger, or maybe one of them was a little bit better in big matches, but the other one just wasn't as good as against the top teams. Whatever it is, like it is a lot of very minute differences.
Yeah. I think just to cap this off for the award show, pretty excited for it to happen. It's on Saturday. We're gonna start around like 6 or whatever. I did put out, like when we put out the news, I did write it's like invite only, but I do feel like people got the idea that only if you get directly reached out to can you attend the show. Like people are free to like reach out and ask if they can come, right? This is kind of the idea. The idea is it's not open for every pleb that wants to buy a ticket and attend, but if you're a part of the CS or esports industry, just reach out and we can see if it makes sense. It's hard to define. I don't know how exactly to write that to get the exact point across, because I know like messaging some people is like, oh, I can come, oh great, I'm gonna book a flight right now, and stuff like that is we're working on it. It's gonna be better.
If you just put it something like if notable members of the community.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how it's
a safe way.
Framed.
And then if someone who reaches out who's not notable, then you just ghost them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easy.
I have a lot of funny random messages from randoms on Twitter, I have to say. There's one guy who's like, hey, Prof, I know you don't remember me, but we've been friends parasocially for the last 3 years. Like, my invite must have been lost in the mail. I'm like, this is funny. I'm not going to give you a ticket, but it's funny. Thank you.
Good attempt.
Yeah.
Good attempt. All right. Let's get
Have
into.
you gotten any inappropriate offers for tickets? I will sell you my wife for a.
No, actually, no. That's funny.
That's
funny
when you know
that
you've
works.
made it, right? Yeah. When that starts to come into play, that's when you know you've made it.
No
All right,
nudes in DMs or anything like that.
let's jump into talking about some of the news here, gentlemen. Now, Lucas, if you could please bring up the Google document, the slide that I have prepared here today. Now, I'll put it in chat for everybody if you want to jump, not in chat for everybody, but in TeamSpeak for everybody. You can see what we're going to be working with here. But long story short, there's been quite a few changes that have happened in the off season for the Xmas break of 2022, 2023. And I've detailed the major ones here, or the bigger ones. Maybe some are not major, you know, but these are the ones as I was going through the news over December and January so far, the ones that seem to stick out and the ones that I think that we should have a bit of a chit chat about here today. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side, we have least exciting to most exciting, and we have all the little faces or logos. So with these changes, what I want to do is I want to open the floor to the three of you in this scenario, and I want you to pick a team and tell me where you would put it on the most exciting to least exciting scale. And if anybody wants to jump and put their hand up first and pick me, I have a team. That's great. If not, I'll start whacking out names and seeing which way you go.
Was your list, like your list of most exciting to least exciting, and then I saw Gate retires at the top of the most exciting. I'm like,
no, we're gonna sort this now. We're sorting this together now, right?
So, does everyone get like one move? I think that's like a good thing.
Let's say you come in here and you're like, yeah, this Apeks move is mega exciting, and Pimp can be like, what the fuck do you think it's exciting? Like, tell us on it, right? Because if you say it's exciting, it's shit, and we think it's shit, well, we're gonna tell you.
Who's gonna start?
Does anyone jumping up and down here?
Like both of these columns. We're just going.
Let's start.
Yeah.
I'll start then. I'll take threat parts ways with an IP. I'll put it like, let's put it to the top of the off-season changes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's put that to the top.
He's made his move. Threat's there. He's a little bit bigger.
Oh, okay, that's how it works.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just because I don't know. I think Threat is a super smart guy, has a lot of credibility as a coach and as just a person that knows a shit ton about CS, and as a person that works good with teams in different roles. So I think him leaving an IP and the way that he did it in terms of like saying that he wants to work more hands-on with the team, essentially, I feel like what he said is like, I want to coach a team. I think that's pretty exciting. I think him being back into a more first hand in front of the cameras, having a direct impact on a player, I think that's gonna improve a team whoever he joins, essentially. I don't know where that's going to be. I hope it's going to be a team that's like fighting for the top 10 or something, not some like random project in the top 40 or whatever. So I think that's it's a good move.
Okay.
Do we have any real theories? I don't know if anybody actually knows anything, but I actually don't know where he's. That's kind of like, that's where I'm leading now. Like, I'm
if
almost
that's happening,
like,
then I'm not that excited.
I'm not that excited if it's Godsend. Yeah, but it's like G2 would make the most sense because they are the only like top team that's looking for a coach, and it would kind of be a pretty decent fit. Maybe not necessarily like playstyle perspective, but still would be interesting. Right? But it doesn't seem like that's the case. Like, nothing's indicated that move is happening. And then like, I have no idea who else could it be that would be like interesting and exciting, you know? So that's where I'm just kind of like a little bit confused.
I really can't figure it out though, because I remember him, like, he's been in and out of NIP the past 5-6 years. And
yeah, something like that.
If I'm not mistaken, when he stepped down as a main coach, he was the one saying that he didn't want to be the head coach anymore. Like, he wanted to be taking a step back and look at it more from a broad perspective. So it does feel like he's changing opinion on whether or not he wants to be a head coach or not a head coach from year to year almost.
I'm not entirely sure.
Move, I think so. I don't know. I couldn't imagine him in G2 personality-wise. Threat, I think he's a great.
Do you guys want to move the thing down? Do you think it's not that exciting?
It is exciting because there's a lot of question marks in regards to this, because I'm not even sure that he's willing to be like the main coach for a team based on what he said a couple of years ago when he left NIP in the first place. But maybe he was just growing tired of that exact project or something. I don't know. But he would be a great coach to have around.
I think it's exciting, but the question that Striker posed, and also the point that Pimp made, you don't have to use them together, but they're both things that are slight detractors from it being, you know, megally exciting. Because if there was a position that we thought he could go to and we knew it was going to be a good team, then that's exciting, right? You would then want that to be coupled with the fact that he now wants to be a bit more of a, like, let's say a people person, because that's the way I guess you have to be if you're going to be the head coach, right? You're a bit more, have to be a bit more personable, because a lot of these teams have analysts who are doing the back end, watching the demos and stuff like that, which is what he was doing a bit more on the NIP roster, right? So I think it's exciting. I just don't know where he's going to go if it's not G2, like you said, because I looked down that list and there's nowhere that looks like it even needs a coach at the moment. Everybody looks pretty happy with who they've got. So I think it's exciting, but I would move it just down like slightly, you know, just maybe about here, just a little bit down, just a little bit down.
Temperature's going down. Let's go.
Yeah, just a little bit. So
yeah,
okay,
that's
so
fine.
that's the threat situation. Anyone else jumping up and down have one they want to whack off here? But that sounds really bad. Anyone they want to pick?
I would say the hat trick to NIP one would be somewhere towards the top out of this out of these changes, because it's something that's fairly obvious. Like, it was an obvious upgrade for NIP to bring in an AWPer, right? I don't know if hat trick is 100% the one. I would have understood if it was Regali more, just because closer to the culture. I know he's Romanian, but he spent a lot of time in Denmark, speaks Danish and all of that, and you know, so it would be more along with the Nordic focus that the NIP have kind of transitioned into. But still, he seems like a guy that could have a pretty high ceiling based on what he's been showing on the lower tier, and he's been pretty decent even when he was stepping in for NAVI. So if he gets a little bit more time, I think he could be a pretty solid AWPer. And I think, like, out of the changes that we've seen this kind of like off season, that's probably among the most exciting.
My look, it's not that I think Headtrick is a bad player. I just think if they're hoping for another Monacy, like if they're hoping to get what G2 got, I think that they might be a little bit off the mark. This kid's young, right? And where we need to see what he's able to do on a consistent basis as a primary AWPer in now an English-speaking team. A couple of factors that we have to keep in mind with all of that, right? That's also going to be a whole transition period where, as you mentioned, with somebody like Regali, they wouldn't have had that issue and they still would have stayed pretty Nordic. So now that they have bringing in Headtrick, it's going to create a couple of issues in itself. I think it is exciting because now the team with the pieces, Alexi being game leading, Hampus, you know, is able to contribute in that department as well and be focusing more on a star rifler. Rez back on the rifle alongside of Brolin. Holy shit, those three Swedes. Now we're talking about something. Yeah. And, you know, then an AWPer who is focused on that role and contributing as an AWPer. Now you're excited. But then I have to weigh up, okay, Headtrick, it's going to take a while. It's not going to click immediately, I don't think.
I hope they've done the scouting properly, because Headtrick is like, I was watching him in the We Play Academy League for a couple of seasons, right? And obviously when he was playing with Monacy, he didn't touch the AWP much at all. In fact, and he wasn't a primary AWPer, not even the secondary AWPer, I remember in some of those games. And I was just looking through his stats as well. In 22, he picked up the AWP role after Monacy left NAVI Junior when he was playing in that tournament. In 21, he barely touched the AWP. In 2020, he did play a little bit more up. And in 2019, he wasn't touching the AWP. So it's a player that is not... You know, he's not designed to be an AWP player. He's not known. Ever since Monacy came out, we knew he was going to be an AWP player, right? Some of these talents, we spot them early, and we know Nico is going to be a fantastic rifler. We know Monacy is going to be a fantastic AWP player, but I feel Headtrick has been, you know, going a bit back and forth. So to your point, as you said, Chad, it's not going to be another Monacy, nowhere near close to that. But maybe, you know, the fact that he is a hybrid, maybe the fact that he can do both is also something that suits NIP pretty well with the playstyle, which is why it makes it very exciting to me that you have Res who can pick up the AWP on some maps. You maybe have Headtrick who is going to be the primary AWPer, but still can rifle on maps like Inferno, or still can rifle when it's needed. And you're a lot more fluent and a lot more versatile than you would be if you picked up a guy like Monacy or Regali, who's a primary AWPer and only an AWPer in that regard. So that makes it exciting to me that it's a question mark for me whether or not Headtrick is actually a better AWP player or rifler, and how NIP is going to facilitate him and use him in that aspect.
Okay. Do we want to put this higher or lower with where I've put NIP? We
I think this is fine.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
All right.
Out of what we have to work with, I feel like there's not going to be much above.
I think we can let's throw in some, just get rid of some. Like, I think Gade retires, woxic free agent, and the EG situation can go in the green. Like, I feel like it's all like there somewhere.
Yeah. Which was the third one?
EG.
You don't want to talk about EG? Don't think that there's any excitement on this. They've moved away from Cirque. There's been a big discussion for a long period of time about him under-delivering on the AWP.
Signing someone new, then I'm not excited.
But we know that it's likely going to be Breeze, Automatic, Neil, and Hexed, and then one of these three. That's the Blast roster that I have there. That
I think like signing George Snorts is pretty exciting, but then it doesn't make sense to put him in unless they want Automatic back on the op, which I feel like is a stupid thing considering how many oppers on the tier 2 are available right now. It's okay. For me, it's ridiculous. So I'm not excited. But if someone
are you
wants
not moderately excited that they made the circ change?
I mean, no, but it's like, oh, I have a flat tire. I'm gonna take off the tire and just drive on 3 wheels. Like, what's the fucking point?
Okay, all right, fair enough. No, I'm trying to. This is what I want. I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to make sure, like, understand why. So it's not something here
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So people still aren't excited about EG. Well, I'll whack them there on that tier. I want to put them up just a little bit. I think that's a little bit more exciting than that. A little bit more. It's got to be more exciting than Gade retiring and woxic being a free agent. We're going to see him play in fucking a week's time.
Okay.
Got to be a little bit more exciting, guys. Come on.
Okay.
Just slightly.
Okay, Mom. I'm going to clean my room. Just leave me alone.
It's only a little bit. I'd put Boomich down here on the same rung as the woxic in the Gade situation. Like, what are we excited about that?
I mean, there's the rumor that he's building his own team, which is fairly exciting. I mean, it's not like some mind-blowing roster, but it is kind of like a new CIS team that could lead to something sometime down the line. So I would put him a little bit higher than EG.
Okay, you'd put the Boomich situation higher than EG.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Actually.
What?
I'd put the Boomich one like up in the like somewhere near threat, in my opinion. Honestly.
I would do it like the orange, like
because look at it. Look at it
good
this
now.
way.
Yeah, look good now.
I'm not saying he's going to be the best IGL in the world, but we're talking about what is exciting. Him coming back, seeing if he can prove that he is like a really good IGL, because now he's living in the shadow of like the Blade whole thing, playing with Simple, carrying everything, like having these superstar players, Bit being amazing, you know, everything kind of falling into place. Like, it's his opportunity now to show, is there more to it than Navi? Is Boomich, you know, and can he recover from all this like personal bullshit that came and kind of made him leave the team essentially, and kind of fucked up the whole Navi era potential alongside other things that happened at the same time, right? So, and the rumor team, obviously Chiron was one of the players that was supposed to be in that, like, there's some like bet boom whatever that's going on right now. There's a bunch of like CIS talents out there that can make a good team, right? That there's a whole Entropic team that is kind of fell apart. Mir is out there, you know. There's quite a few players that can come together and provide like a decent team that can go to the major easily, I feel like. So that's what I want to see. Like, if he can do that, that's cool.
All right. Let's see. There you go. You made a case for him. You made a case for your boy Boomich. I'll take that. Jake, have you got anything here that you think is exciting or not very exciting?
I think the Mantle one is a little bit exciting to me from like a broad perspective, in terms of like the way he's playing with the AWP. You know, I think it's like a middle pace of the pack here. The way he's playing with the AWP, I'm curious to whether or not, you know, you want any defensive AWP players in modern days Counter-Strike. I feel he was a little hard done by in OG. I think people remember him to be worse than he actually were in OG. For the vast majority of the time, I thought he was doing a decent job, but he has a very defensive and very, you know, sometimes with a little impact on the server, especially when you compare him to the Monacies and the Dexters and all these new guys coming up, right? It's a different way of playing with the AWP. So I'm not necessarily interested in Mansu. I think he's probably not going to be part of a top 10 team for the vast majority of the rest of his career, if ever again. But more so in terms of where do we see the AWP role go in terms of, you know, the Mantus, the Dexters, the Monacies. Is everyone just going to look up to Monacy now? And is everyone going to expect that the next new Opera is going to be like Monacy? Hetrick is a great example. Do we expect him to come in and play the same, you know, aggressive, all over the place, clutchy style? Or is there space for guys like Mantu still, who is a reliable but sometimes boring teammate, I guess, to have around? That's the interesting part to me.
I'm surprised NIP didn't try and get Mantu.
Me too.
Like, considering how many like aggressive riflers that they have available in that team, it does surprise me that they didn't even consider having Mantu in the roster. And I
mean, maybe they did consider him. We don't know exactly who they talked to and stuff like that. I know they talked to more than
just Hetrick.
Just Hetrick, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's the thing. I have the issue with Mantu here of where he's going to go, right? And that's the bit that if he could go somewhere, then I could start getting excited. But it's the same thing with woxic. It's like, okay, the guy obviously is skilled, but where does he end up? Because when you look at the teams here, like the woxic situation, this whole fucking Eternal Fire situation is the most tragic thing I think I've seen in Counter-Strike in a very long time, just how fucking dumb with all the roster changes they've been, because that's flat out how some of the decision-making's been over there. But then you look at these teams, like where's woxic meant to go? There's not another Mouse anymore that he can, find a spot on. It's where's he meant to go? Same with Mansu. Like, where are we going to put him? I don't know. Like, I'm more excited.
I'm kind of surprised that like it's not unless it is EG, and like this is kind of like just the transition, and like we just didn't know about maybe they're just going to make like a last minute change because they're the last seed anyway. And I think Blast allows you to make kind of like changes even after seeding is done at the cost of whatever seeding in matches. So maybe it still is EG, but like that's kind of the only team that I can think of at the moment that he could be joining. That would be like remotely interesting.
Okay. Are we moving this position of Mansu up or down here, gentlemen?
A little bit down, perhaps.
A little bit down?
Yeah. Until we figure out when he's going to play. You're not wrong about that.
We'll put him a little bit below boomage, because at least boomage got some prospects going on here. All right. Kensi joining Aurora. Reunion with NAVI. He's back with him. Over there, they got Delusion. Starix is the coach. Lackey's in that team, boys. And Latic. Don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Aurora, that's one of the changes that happened. Now, you were getting pretty excited about the teams from that region, Prof, popping off with boomage.
No, I'm not excited about this at all. You can put it at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
You can just leave the tip of the logo like extending from the bottom.
Wait, why?
Of the sheet.
I can't. I'm going to have to move woxic and gade down then.
I mean, I don't know. It's
they're going to be about here.
Of kind of potential players.
Yeah.
Like a lot of potential players, but players with potential, not potential players. I don't know. Nothing. I don't know. Just nah.
Okay. Well, they're not household names, so I understand how you can get from that position. Okay, so going from one to the other, I think that this Chiron to Outsiders situation is actually pretty damn exciting. And the reason I think that is because this is a move that's aggressive from Outsiders. They've obviously gone, hey, this Norbert situation, we're not fucking loving it. We think that we can find a better prospect, a better bit of talent out there to give us more in the server. They've made an aggressive move that Norbert didn't see coming. He got blindsided by James and moving around those fucking those pawns across the board. And they're going into a season now with another aggressive rifler. I was watching some of the kids' demos. He's fucking just rolling around murking people. Like he's sharp, right? Now, in terms of, when I was watching some of the particulars on some Vertigo games, he was with a different roster every fucking third match. So I wasn't sure how much time he'd practiced with them. So I was just looking for more raw ability and stuff in the demos I was watching. And this kid can shoot. So I think it's exciting that the major champions have made a roster change going into the new year because they think that they can, be better than where they're at right now, which is exciting to me. That's the current reigning major champions. It's got to be it's a heads up move they've made. They've gone, fuck it, we're changing.
I love the fact that they're being proactive about it. I think a lot of us would agree, or a lot of us would question whether or not that we believe that Outsiders would be able to replicate a performance like we saw at the major. I think we even saw that, or hint towards that during the Blast Global Finals, that it's not a team, at least I don't expect them to be a top 5 team. Maybe with this roster change, there's potential for it, but with the current thing they had going on, the major was, there was a lot of upsets happening. There was a lot of teams who, at least in my book, underperformed, and Outsiders took advantage of that and played a good tournament overall. I also do think that it's not a secret that Norbert, had some attitude within that team. And I think it brings me back to discussion that if you are a player with attitude, or if you are a player that, have a strong personality, or for whatever reason takes up a lot of energy from some of your teammates, you better put up on the server as well. You better have a high, productivity in terms of frags, in terms of winning ability. And Norbert, he was doing a decent job, but he wasn't better than decent, at least from an individual standpoint.
What's the backstory with
I've seen we've seen clips. I feel we've seen body language, we've seen and heard stuff. Just all sorts of stuff, both on Reddit and your own HLTV forums have posted, him sometime raging. And I guess everyone does it to some degree, but I, at least from my perspective, I got the sense that he was a player that was very vocal about, when he was not happy with either his own performance or a teammate's performance or an opponent or whatever there may be. And sometimes it just takes a lot of energy and takes a lot of focus from your individual play. And I myself, God knows, when I was in his age or younger, I was the same type of player. And I can only imagine that the teammates around me would sometimes think to themselves, just shut the fuck up, right? Just stay quiet. Don't take away focus.
There's also the obvious anti-strat of 5 AWPs, which when people know he has such a weakness business, it's very hard. I guess James didn't want that like back door open essentially for
He's
team.
the only one to open that team.
Yeah.
True. The thing is, you're switching him up with Kyron. You said it yourself, Chad. You've seen him in demos. In the We Play Academy League, I would argue as well, he was the strongest individual rifler when he was playing in that league. He's insanely sharp in that regard. But he also had a couple of instances where he was, writing, questionable tweets, said things, things he shouldn't have done, things he shouldn't have said. So you're bringing in, that's my point, right? You're taking away a weakness from your team in terms of productivity on the server, who perhaps may or may not have some attitude issues as well. And you're bringing in a guy that for sure can have some of the same tendencies in terms of attitude, but at least that he's a guarantee on the server. He's going to put up numbers, he's going to put up frags. So in that regard, I like it. You don't risk a lot from my point of view.
There's some strong fuckboy energy going on from outsiders here, though, right? Because they've kept Norby, they've kept him on the bench, and they're going, look, you just sit and wait over there, honey. We'll be back, So they're going to see how things go with Chiron here. They're gonna test the waters. And then, well, this is from what I was understanding, is that if it doesn't work well, you can just bring Norbert back into the fray, right? Because you know what you're going to get with him. So you give this kid a chance. If it works out, if it's fucking sick, awesome. If it's not, all right, well, not too much damage has been done, right? So
do they still have an academy team or no?
It was VP Prodigy before, right?
I think it's dead now.
I mean, they couldn't play in the Academy League anymore, so I'm guessing it wasn't that interesting anymore. But
I think definitely Chiron is a player that has been on the radar as like in terms of like in the server stuff for like a year or two. I think he had some like decent offers, but turned them down or whatever because he was still underage and needed to finish school and shit like that. I think. What do you think from his perspective? Is joining this team like a good decision in terms of just looking at how players work on VP and how the contracts work and everything? It's definitely not going to be, I mean, he did sign for VP, right? We're calling them outsiders, but he's signed a contract with Virtus Pro. Usually not really a team they're not going to pay like European salaries. And this is a guy that speaks English and speaks German as well. There are some like interest in him when he was like 17 to join, maybe not join big, but maybe big academy, it's thinking about him. Maybe, I don't know if going the CIS side is best for his career long-term, but on the flip side, he's playing with James, which is a player that you can learn a shit ton from. And he's playing with a team that's currently ranked, I don't know, top 5 in the world. And where else is he going to get that kind of quick chance essentially? So it's an interesting thing to balance out. Like he just jumped from Aurora to this level, right? Not going to any relevant lands to being now in a team they're not partners anywhere, but they are still going to be in like the Katowices and everything. So it's a big jump for him.
Striker, would you say it's more or less exciting than the NIP one? Just here so we can finalize.
I don't know, maybe same-ish.
Same-ish. Okay, I'll leave it same.
I can't really.
Same-ish is pretty good.
Like slightly.
Yeah.
Well,
we skipped the Brazilians.
No, we didn't skip them. We weren't going in order. It just worked out that way before.
Okay.
We were meant to be going all over the place. Fucking order. It was meant to be, here, there, everywhere, like just taking and picking and choosing. I actually think this isn't majorly exciting, but it's exciting to show that this team is trying to be competitive. And we had the same conversation when I talked about because Fur was still playing well. The Fur thing's just a bit of a shame that Fur's fucking on the way out the door after playing well. Yeah. And now they're bringing in JOTA, but JOTA worked well with Cello.
I mean, Fur, I don't know if you missed that, but like he did say he just didn't want to play anymore. Essentially, like when they qualified from the RMR to the major, he was like, I was thinking of quitting before this, but then I didn't. But then when he got to the major, he kind of played shit, unfortunately. Like at the RMR, he was good, and prior to that, he was really good. But at the major, it wasn't the same for we saw in Imperial so far, and that really limited them at the major, in my opinion. So it makes sense that they just make a change.
This one's just middle of the pack for me. Nothing too crazy.
Sure.
Okay, what else do we have here that's worth?
I mean,
a nod?
I'm kind of like out of the rest of these, I think the one that I'm kind of excited the most about, even though it's not like a super big change, is the Sprout one.
Okay.
Because they've been kind of aggressive about bringing in younger people, and Slacks I think was a very obvious place that they would upgrade the next one.
Yeah.
So I think it just makes a lot of sense to me. It's not like I'm 100% sold on XELLOW. He was a guy that kind of has had the chance to, or not the chance, but looked like a guy that could get a chance somewhere a little bit higher than Nexus for the past couple of years, and so it's kind of nice to see it now at least. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much why.
Yeah, and I think if you consider this team as well for Sprout, the scouting that's been done by the team in terms of the names that they bring in, and then the potential that we get to see come to fruition in some of the matches, like Longs and Stare are great examples of that. And I think the fact that they've got Refresh and Xiphon, who are already proven in their own right, and now you bring in another prospect here, that if he can deliver in that AWPing role, then this becomes a very solid team, because I think they're a good team now, and I think they can become a better team. Jacob, what do you think?
I agree, and I like the whole project. You know, I think you're mentioning all the prospects on the team as well. They're all relatively young or inexperienced, I guess, apart from Refresh in some degree. Barry, to me, is the guy, the coach for Sprout that's going to unfold, you know, and hopefully foster these players to become even better. He's sort of like the budget version of HUNDEN before HUNDEN decided to cheat and throw himself into that scandal. But Barry is a very strong and a very, very good guy at fostering talent, and he's been around for forever, right? You guys probably know him from 1.6 better than I do, but at least in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, he came to the realization that individually speaking, he was never going to be good enough to be part of a top team, but as a coach and as a guy who can help these youngsters to become better. He's done that for many, many, many years with other players, right? If you look at some of the history of some of the Danish players or some of the Danish talents, a lot of them have been with Barry at some point in their career and have learned a lot from Barry at some point in their career. And I'm sure if we were to ask them as well, they'd credit some of their success to having been with him. So I think Sprout is a very exciting team, and I think it's a team that, yeah, maybe they overachieved by qualifying to the major the way they did it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see them actually establish themselves as a top 20 team in the world.
Do you have anything in response to this, Prof? We got a bunch of positive Pete's over here. Are you going to be?
Yeah, I have to back you. I don't have much to add negatively, right? I think it's a really cool thing that it's important also for the rest of the team that they upgrade, and so it doesn't feel like they need to leave to improve, right?
Yeah,
I think that's because obviously Stare and maybe Xiphon are two of the players that have been targeted to some degree. Stare primarily. And then he is still sticking around, and you need to make sure that he's happy and motivated, and that the core of the team can like continue together. Obviously, if someone comes knocking with like huge check, then things are going to happen, but they have now kind of the momentum that like Heroic has right now. Like where Heroic are right now is that like we got this team together, all kind of promising players, and then like after 3 years, now Astralis can go and just fucking buy Shush, for example, or even when his contract is out, Shush isn't going to make that move because of the team where he developed and where he is winning with these players, and they all kind of came together to this level. So I feel like Sprout are kind of doing the same thing, which is really cool.
Okay, cool. We're happy with Sprout here. Let's have a little bit look at this one. Apeks, I'm just going to whack it down about similar position as Aurora here. They're still rocking Stiko Nork, Jacob, and they have JL there. He was one of the more recent additions, and this new kid who they've added. How am I going to pronounce this? Kixon. Yeah. Yep. He's the newest addition there, but this is another one of these scenarios where, yeah, they got to start cooking before we get excited for what's going on in the kitchen. SDY MPL scenario. Now, look, we get a little bit of a look at MPL towards the tail end of the season when they brought him as that 6-man. We knew that there was likely going to be some changes going through here, but there must be confidence from Blade & Co., who has been voted as a top 3 coach. So the people must think that he knows what he's doing. So this MPL change, though, is anybody excited for this, or do people feel that this is going to be another scenario where, okay, it's going to take a couple of events before NAVI start getting underway? What do we think with the change like this? Another kid being thrown out of the frying pan into the fire.
I mean, the way that I look at it is that, I mean, so far what we've seen from kind of like the academy prospects being upgraded is they had to be really standout players in the academy league itself to work at the top tier. Like they really had to stand out from that crowd a lot. And I don't think that we've seen that with NPL enough for this to be like an obvious move for Navi. And obviously in his first event with Navi, he was very poor in terms of his output. So there's, at the moment, I am really reserving judgment on whether this is a good move or not, because we haven't seen enough of him. But I mean, I'm leaning towards this probably not working out in the long term.
Yeah, that's probably the key there, right? We haven't seen any glimpses just yet, but I think like when you have Masuda come in for Vitality, he had like one of his early games where he didn't get a kill on Dust 2, for example, right? Like he had a game where he went like 0-15 or some shit. Like, and then Masuda now, okay, well, he's not where he was, but Masuda for a while there was like, okay, this kid can frag, right? I think we've all seen Masuda show like a decent level of Counter-Strike, that's for sure. But you look at this scenario here, with MPL, the team doesn't feel like it's stabilized any more than it was, right? Like this doesn't feel like it's a concrete roster move that's filled everybody with, oh shit, now we're going to fucking win. It just feels like, okay, well, let's pick back up and let's keep building. Let's just keep working on this thing, right? Until maybe one day we look at it and we're happy with it. Because at the moment, right, we still have this electronic in-game leading situation that's still marinating and it's chopping and changing as they continue to grow into that. Is Bit back in form? Is Bit not back in form, right? Is it just his play style and working right now? There's a lot of questions. Perfecto's playing good, clutching out around. So, there's so many conversation points around NAVI. This MPL scenario doesn't really move the meter, move the needle.
If you guys can just pick one player, they needed to go with one player. Would you pick SDY or Nipple?
I'd pick NPL for sure. I think he's shown enough in the We Play Academy League to be worth, gambling on compared to SDY, who he's had a long stint with NAVI, right? He's been with them as an official stand-in or whatever you want to call it for half a year. And I expected more from SDY, to be honest, from an individual standpoint. I know it's not the easiest team to be integrated into. And I guess, being told that you're just a stand-in for half a year, you're in the team, you're out of the team, you're maybe not feeling the guarantee of your teammates, believing in you as you're not signed for the majority of the time. I don't know. I think it's worth the gamble considering how, I wouldn't say poor SDY has been, but how lack of impact he's had, especially the past 3 or 4 months for NAVI.
I see the question, Prof. I see what you've done there. You're not giving me any options, and if I have limited options, the possible potential is probably worth the attempt.
You're going for the potential.
Yeah.
Am I the only one strongly feeling that Electronic shouldn't be in-game leading NAVI whatsoever? Like that's the main issue they need to solve, in some degree, figure out a guy that can come in. I was even thinking of Jerry or someone like that, to come in and be the in-game leader of NAVI, so you can free Electronic to be what Electronic should be doing on the server. I really feel that we were blindsided, obviously, by it happening in the beginning with the whole Boomit situation, and he did well at, was it Lisbon, where he was in-game leading and having a fantastic tournament, and that bought him, 3 or 4 months where no one would question that move whatsoever. But we've seen him struggle a lot, from an individual point of view. I think when you watch NAVI play as well, from a strategical point of view as well, they're not really coming up with a lot. It's not like they have a clear play style. Now bringing in NPL, Sundar Young, the 6-man roster, it's not easy right now in the NAVI camp. I think you said it pretty well, Chad, that there's so many questions within NAVI right now, but I feel like the main thing they need to address is whether or not you want to bank on Electronic being your in-game leader for the entirety of 23. I wouldn't personally do that, but
yeah, I think they have made that decision.
Sure.
I think their decision is that they want to stick, but I see what you're saying there in terms of that not being the right decision.
I mean, the problem is, like, who do you get? Like, if you don't want to bring in any more Russians, then you have a problem. Like, there's just no real like standout in-game leaders like that you could pick up from Ukraine or any of the other countries like Kazakhstan or whatever, that they would be willing to bring in. So at this point, I think it's kind of like plugging a hole that they don't have any other solution for. So I agree with you. Like, if there was a good replacement, I would much rather see Electronic be like the second man to Simple again and just be that consistent like top 5 player that we'd seen him like in the years before. But that's just doesn't seem realistic at the moment.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird situation to be in here. But I think the thing is with this roster, and you take the 4 players we have anyway, and them in their current roles, like you got to think with the Counter-Strike, the era of Counter-Strike we're in right now, the window is still open for them to win titles. Like the window right now is open for a lot of teams to win titles. Do I think this is going to make like a legacy team that goes and wins like 4 consecutive majors? Probably not. But for where we're at right now, it's probably a roster which will be very competitive, or at least I'd hope so, right? So yeah, that's the thing. And this today with all these new kind of hurdles that are in the way, not just with the war, but the hurdles we have. It was before this when NAVI were having a hard time getting players from that region anyway. Because of how in contract lock or how big the buyouts were, you're never going to get the dream. Well, you're not never. Like obviously the FaZe Rops one is a dream roster move, but it's very rare that you get those dream roster moves. They happen less often. You kind of have to settle or make a difficult choice between maybe not priority 1 and 2, which is never ideal. Okay, so where do we think NAVI in terms of this roster change? Just middle of the pack?
Honestly, for me, they're kind of between yellow and green with this. This is like,
okay, it's pretty mild.
Yeah, not really
no
hot.
spice on your curry here.
Yeah.
All right.
Just one more thing to add is just that Bit also didn't look like any sort of like a big prospect when he started out with Navi, when he started playing a couple of maps, and they obviously made it work. They obviously saw something in him. So there's some level of trust I have in Blade and in that entire system that they know what they're doing. With this move, it seems fairly abrupt compared to the Bit situation, and it's going to be a big step for NPL. But they have some sort of a track record with this where it worked. So there's some trust there.
Okay. What do we got here for the next one? Buster to Cloud9. This one here, this is still a report, but I'm basically treating this as it's done. I like to do that.
It just is done, yeah.
Okay, there you go. You heard it from Striker. It just is done. Now, this change with Inters, we've had this conversation before on the show regarding Cloud9 and the change, and we said that there's obviously more to it. Same kind of thing as what we were just talking about there with Navi. There's more to it than just the player change. There will probably be a playstyle change, maybe some role changes or some different approaches, likely. Because we all thought Inters in the role he was in was doing a very good job. It's just, well, they thought the need for the change, right? So if Cloud9 think there's a need for the change, I'm sure it's more than just the player. That's the point that's being made here. So this Buster move here, Mr. Prof, what do you think about this one? Are you excited? Are you not? Because look, I feel like we were Cloud9 fans on this show for a while.
Yeah. I mean, last episode, people called me out for just hyping up everything about last year that I remembered and was good. It was Cloud9. So here we go. Now, after this move, I can't be anymore. They also killed my most reliable fantasy pick, Inters. It's going to be hard next year. I think it's definitely, I don't agree with the change. I don't think it's the core of the issue, right? And I'm not saying it's not going to improve the team, but I don't think it was, it wasn't his fault, but it still might end up being a better thing in the long run.
Okay.
It's going to be a bit of turning things around. I rate Buster as a player. I think he's pretty good. I think he was always pretty good. Like his departure from the Virtus Pro thing wasn't a performance thing. It was more everything around the team. He left when Yakindar was out as well.
Yep.
So I think, comparing to, like, let's say the three options that they had, Sanji, I think that would be like a super stupid thing to go for, because he's essentially he's kind of the same player as Inters, but worse, in my opinion, or at least he was. He also had some medical issues and shit like that, so maybe that hampered them a bit. And then Forrester was the other one. I feel like he is completely out of role. That would be like very hard for them to adapt to that. I think Buster is kind of the middle of the pack. Some things will work, some things won't. I don't know. I don't expect it to be a massive change. I think when you think about Cloud9's failings, we talked about it so many times. It's like you can put some blame on NAVI calling. You can put some on Exile not showing up in the games where he should as the big player. I know Hobbit just gets like a free pass, but he also had some of the games where, as the third star of the team, probably should have done more. And I guess with Buster, some of that Exile Hobbit part can be shored up. Essentially, you're expecting him to deliver more often than Inters did, but I don't know. Inters had a lot of good like late round moments when it was needed from him, so I just feel it's kind of a shame.
Okay.
In my book, it's a gamble. It's a massive gamble, to be honest. Buster haven't played competitive Counter-Strike for 7-8 months now. I think the last time he played was in May in 22, at least an official game. And didn't he also say, I think I read that somewhere, that he didn't play Counter-Strike whatsoever for 3 or 4 months? Like he hadn't had access to a computer or something like that. So you're basically bringing in a very cold and out of shape player, out of the meta player. And also, I slightly disagree with the performance of Buster, because I remember in 2022 and 21, he was a solid player. He was a good player, but his last stint in Virtus Pro, his rating was 0.94, I think, for the year, which is way below what Buster should be able to produce on the server, right? So you're bringing in a player that hasn't played Counter-Strike for 7 months, and you're bringing in a player that last time he did play Counter-Strike, he was in the worst shape of his entire professional career. So in terms of, what are you getting? I think it's a big gamble from Cloud9. Again, they probably know him better than we do, and it could be that he was in VP and feeling motivational issues. It could be that he was going through a rough patch in his life and didn't have the motivation to play Counter-Strike or whatnot. And if he's regained that, maybe we get to see the Buster of 2020 or 2019. But to me, it's like, I don't know. I don't think Buster was whoever they needed if they just needed a change. Because I agree that Inter's, you know, it's hard to point out him saying that he's at fault for Cloud9 and they're choking in the problems, but it's more so they need something to change within the roster, and Inter's is the easiest guy to replace. But when you then replace him with someone who, to me, is an even bigger question mark or a bigger gamble than what you had before, the effect kind of goes missing for me. So I find it very interesting because of the Buster moving to Cloud9, but I'm afraid it's not going to work out the way people want it to.
Yeah, I kind of look at it with the question you asked before, Prof, with Navi, like of changing, you could pick SDY or MPL. Well, with this, it's like, if you can change NAFNI or you can change Inters. If you change NAFNI, you could be changing the entire approach to the team if they're not on board with what Groove wants to do. If you change Inters, you're just changing one player. And I think that Buster, he is a bit more proactive with his decision-making than Inters. Where Inters will do everything by the book, but sometimes when you need to like do something a little bit outside of the box, a little bit quirky, or go for that type of a timing that might catch you that kill, I think Buster's more inclined to do that type of stuff than what Inters would, because Inters would just be Mr. Reliable and do everything you expect time and time again. So I think like here we get pretty like tepid waters. I feel like this is probably a middle of the pack move, maybe a similar situation as what like Imperial. Yeah, it happened. It's a move. We have to wait and see what happens with it. It doesn't ignite confidence initially, but it's also not end of the world. The team isn't fucked because of a change like this. So I think it can settle somewhere here in the middle. Now we'll save the Astralis one for last because that's going to bleed into a larger topic, which would be fun for everybody. Yay. So let's get this 9Z 00 Nation debate settled here. So they swapped AWPers. Try's gone to 9Z. He was at 9Z before, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And NQZ to 00 Nation. Now NQZ was the young lad, Brazilian lad. He was, you know, had some moments with the AWP. Now him going over to 00 Nation, that team is now full Brazilian. And now 9Z have got a whole mix of the South Americas again, I believe. So this one here, who do we think, Striker, who do you think got the better of this? From just like eye test, no stats required, from these two AWPers, who do you think, which team do you think got the better of the move?
I would say 0-0, just because of, I think NQZ has been showing kind of like a lot of potential and hasn't necessarily gotten the chance to make the step up before. So I feel like ceiling wise, I think NQZ might be higher. So for that reason, I'm kind of more excited about him than I am about Try going the other way.
Yeah, Try never really came good on the promise.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, he was showing similar like potential somewhere at the lower scene, but then like when he came into 00 Nation, I think it's not like he was bad, but he wasn't like a superstar for them or anything like that, you know. So I'm curious to see if NQZ could be that guy, you know, maybe in 6 months down the line, like he's going to get used to this kind of a level and show what he really has to offer.
Interesting roster.
I think it works for both teams, like Try individually, because Try was, if I remember correctly, he was almost out of the team going back to 9Z when this whole Taco Godsend, like the Godsend 00 Nation merger kind of happened. Not really a merger, but the teams merged. He was supposed to leave, but then last minute he was convinced to stay. I think it's just one of those, some players just need to feel comfortable. He's also super young, and in 9Z he was comfortable. We remember the Blast Showdown when they beat Vitality and he retired RPK in the most fucking spectacular fashion. So that's kind of the promise that he had. I agree, he didn't deliver on it in 00 Nation whatsoever. So I think it's just going to work better for both teams.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think it's the better end of the deal for both teams. I also sense that Try is very much a comfort player. There was as I understood it as well from talking to some of the players, there was a lack of initiative coming from Try, and I think we all know
that's
that
ironic.
It is, especially when you're the AWP player. Like you need to be the guy, telling your teammates where you want to go for a peak, where you want to dictate the game, or where you want to try to open up the rounds. And as I understood it, like Cole Sarah had to spend a lot of time telling Try what to do instead of focusing on other parts of the calling. So you need someone who's gonna be, confident enough to take initiative on his own, and I don't think Try did that in the 00 Nation setup. So I think it's a move that's going to work out for both, because he also did perform exceptionally well in 9C when he was feeling that comfort. So it's probably going to be fine for both.
Okay, all right, and let's get into everyone's favorite one here. So the news with Astralis, obviously the pride of a nation. Nation got a little bit upset with this one. Now Castle to remain as the head coach. Astralis signed Buzz, and Astralis signed HUNDEN as head analyst. Now, gentlemen, a raise of hands here if you were surprised by HUNDEN being announced as the analyst of Astralis. Oh, funny that. Oh,
you were surprised?
Okay. He wasn't surprised. Surely he wasn't.
Yes,
all right.
Tell us
why you're surprised.
that he was signed in the role of an analyst. Why wouldn't you just go in and be the head coach straight away? I was surprised that he wouldn't be given that, responsibility from the get-go. I actually thought that they were waiting for him to replace Trace whenever they got him removed. So not surprised at all that he's signed to Astralis. As far as I'm aware, he's been for a long time. But the fact he was announced as an analyst to me was a little bit surprising.
I think it's just PR trying to like smoothly, squeeze him in slowly. Oh, he's just an analyst. Like first he was just a content creator, then he was just an analyst, and then he is just a coach, and then he's just a CEO of Astralis.
All part of his master plan here. No, but I was so surprised with the community reaction. I was like, have you guys not been paying attention? Like everyone was up in arms and tweeting about it, and there was fucking threads and people chatting about how can they do this? What do you mean? As far as we knew, they were already doing this. Like, what are we doing? Are we just pretending all these things didn't happen? Like, of course we know what happened up to this point. And then I think the thing is that, like, people are outraged about it. Okay, what are you outraged about the most here? Because your perception of the guy and the shit that he did doesn't have to change. You can keep that, but he's allowed to play, and he's allowed to. Sorry, he's allowed to coach. He's allowed to be an analyst.
I mean, he's allowed to play too, but
he's allowed to play. He's allowed to contribute. He's allowed to be here. So unless he's in jail, which he's not in jail, and he doesn't have the death sentence, he's out here with the rest of us crazy people. So do we know he did something bad? Yeah. What he did is bad. We've spoken about it at length on this show. For more than we probably should have. But in terms of like, if people think there's an injustice and shit, you got to take that up with the correct parties here, gentlemen. Because what do you want us to do about it?
I mean, nothing. You don't have anything to do.
Well, I mean, you as the Counter-Strike community, like this is the thing. It's like it's happening. You can always, when you see him on screen or when you can see it, if you don't like him and you think you can think that way. You can boo him. You can do what you want, right?
Trying, kind of being vocal that they don't agree that it's okay for him to be, that he's cleaned. And I think the problem for me and why I'm fine with people being outraged is because the whole way this was handled in the end. It's like if Isaac came out and said like he actually didn't share these files, this was actually a fuck up on ours, like this was a misunderstanding and blah blah, and this is now a clear thing, and we would say like, okay, now we know what it is. People would be able to make their own judgments. The way it was handled, just everything behind closed doors, just leaves a bitter taste, and it feels like yeah, what the fuck is going on here? Like it feels like he just paid some money and then got cleared, right? That's how it feels. And this is
he did. He essentially used the legal process here to have the record expunged, right? It doesn't exist anymore. They deleted it. It's gone.
Yeah.
But that means that Isaac never had any follow through available to actually deal with it in the first place. So then Isaac, as we've spoken about, have absolutely no authority if just some guy rocking up with a couple of lawyers to dispute something is enough for them to drop everything they have. So this is the thing.
That's kind of the problem. And I think probably because of how that was settled, HUNDEN probably can't even talk about it, right? That's probably how I'm just going to completely speculate here.
That is very clear from the wording, by the way. I don't think you're speculating that much.
Yeah, so he can't even say anything. Astralis can't say anything. We're stuck in this stupid situation where no one can say anything about anything. I mean, we're stuck. They're stuck. They enforce the situation. It's all kind of a load of crap, and it's all bullshit, right? And then people are just upset about it, and they have a right to be upset about it because in the end, like, HUNDEN wasn't the worst offender in terms of the fucking camera thing.
Yeah,
definitely wasn't. Like, he had a pretty short ban in the end regarding that because he was one of the first people to come clean and talk about it. So the whole other thing is like, it's the whole like heroic situation and the Nico situation and everything in the media that was going on and that was being like dragged out. And yeah, that's the part why people hate HUNDEN, right? That's the part, not actually the coaching bug. I don't think so. And people just kind of conflate it all and make him
Voldemort.
Yeah, we have this thing. I don't know, like the carnival in Croatia. We do. I know other countries do this as well. It's like in February or something. They make like a big statue of something or someone, and they burn it every year. And it's like, who's the person that's to blame for everything bad that happened in the previous year? And this is kind of what we did with the coaching bug. Like, HUNDEN is to blame for everything, even though he didn't come up with it. He didn't share it from what we know with other people. He wasn't the person that used it the most. He is just like he he's the one to blame. Like, and now everything he does is the worst. And to some degree, as I said, I'm fine with people hating on.
I mean, he
deserved
a part of that because of what he did in the aftermath. You know.
Yeah.
But so let me throw this one over to you here, Jacob, because you're Danish. If people at home didn't realize that, and Astralis normally have this shine around them, right? And obviously they've had their ups and downs in recent times with not being the best team, and the controversy with the config scenario. But they handled that, right? They dealt with that in probably the most professional way that they possibly could have.
Actually,
but now,
can I just finish my thought before I do this? I think everything I built up is like, okay, HUNDEN's reputation is shit.
Yes.
I think the problem is that he didn't really try to rebuild his reputation before getting this job. Like that is kind of we need.
I can ask a dumb question. What can he do?
I mean, he needs to talk about things. He needs to go out there and be as open as possible. I think, and this is the problem. He's not going to do that in Astralis because Astralis hate doing that in general. It's like why we didn't have any device interviews on our website since he came back, because they don't want to do anything that's not like pre-done, pre-proofed, or whatever the fuck. Like
I think he tried that in the beginning, right? He tried to come out and tell his version of the truth. Like he tried to be open about it, but it didn't really pan out, right?
He did it in the worst way possible. So
I think he burned that one shot he had at doing.
I mean, yeah, but if he's now coming back, like he needs to get out there and talk about things.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
he doesn't. He doesn't have to win the people over.
Well,
this is the thing.
But if he wants to win the people over, then he needs to win the people.
But he shouldn't. He shouldn't. The only thing that matters is winning. Just win. Just win. Just don't cheat. I think that's it.
That is kind of the only way for both Astralis and HUNDEN to get out of this kind of like still looking okay. Just like if this move actually pans out, they obviously Astralis are desperate to get anybody like capable of anything in their team, because they've been having problems with that. If people haven't noticed, like getting capable people in their positions has been the number one problem in the entire year for Astralis. And so this is kind of the first one that I think, if you disregard everything around it, if you disregard all the reputation stuff for HUNDEN, if you just only consider his merits, his knowledge, and his work in the scene in general, I think this is a slam dunk. Like there's no question that he is in the right position, as the guy who we assume is eventually going to coach or even now going to make a lot of decisions for Astralis in terms of in-game stuff and like making all the strategy and all that stuff. Like I'm sure Castle is still going to be involved in some way, but I'm sure HUNDEN is kind of now the main guy who's going to be who's the most knowledgeable of kind of like the backroom staff, right? And so like from that perspective, that is obvious. And so like we just need to see the results of that, and people just need to see the results of that to kind of understand, okay, Astralis were kind of pieces of shit for doing this, but at least they had a merit to do it. They actually worked, build the team back up.
Yeah, people need to be able to separate the two of them. Now, Jacob, from this Danish perspective, looked like there was a little bit of pushback from Astralis fans. Is that a sentiment, do you think? Do you think there's a bit of Astralis fans who might be going and finding themselves a heroic jersey?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, I mean, the past 5 years, everyone has been all about Astralis, right? If you divide the Danish fan base, you probably had 97% being fans of Astralis and 3% for Heroic, even in COVID, even in the times where Heroic started winning stuff. And obviously the whole scandal with HUNDEN and Heroic, and also the way that some of the Heroic players were handling that scandal back in the days, that caused that one chance, I'd argue, for Heroic to build a fan base of Astralis struggling on the server. Now, though, you're spot on. Like I've never seen the Danish community being as divided as they are right now. There's still the diehard Astralis fans who neglect everything and who will argue to the day that they did nothing wrong, and it's totally understandable. But some of the loyal fans and some of the most vocal fans, even in the roughest time for Astralis, have started to come out and be very pessimistic about the decision making. They are calling for certain people's positions to be, out of a job. Kasper Witt is a guy that is under a lot of flack in Danish Counter-Strike right now. I don't see a single.
Sorry for laughing. I just remember the meme picture, someone like Photoshop, like thank you. Kind of when they fire a player, it's thank you, and then just Photoshop Kasper quit. I don't know why it's so funny, but it's funny as well.
Everyone is after him like this. I think we, at least Danish fans, they desperately need someone to be the scapegoat of why Astralis have gone from being such a solid, well-driven, at least in their eyes, organization to a shit show of a clown fiesta, which they've been for the past year. So yeah, the Danish community is very much divided in terms of whether or not you agree with what Astralis are doing right now. It's a tough one.
Just to add, follow up a question. You said like they need a scapegoat for everything that happened, but isn't I mean, not even like scapegoat is used when you use someone that's not in charge to kind of, you know, run away from the problems, but isn't Casper?
He's actually in charge.
The person that is in charge, like he was in charge to everything that happened in the last 3-4 years. What do you think? Do you think he should be fired?
I don't know enough about the inner workings to say whether or not he should be fired, right? But of course, you're looking towards your sports director when you have a club or when you have a team who's not performing for such a long extended period. When you have so much questionable decision making going on, at some point the arrow has to point towards you. And I'm sure that discussion has been within Astralis. Otherwise, it would be a shit show again. I don't know whether or not he owns a significant amount of stocks within Astralis, or if he's in a position where they can't really touch him, or whatever's going on internally. But sure, you know, someone has to be responsible or kept responsible for what has been the downfall of Astralis, right? I think when you look at it in a 3 or 4 year period, they went from being the most dominant force in Counter-Strike of all time to be a team that it's hard to even take them serious right now, at least for me. And I think just the Danish reaction speaks volume to how bad it is. You know, the fact that you have some of the most diehard fans who has invested, I don't know how much money in buying their jersey whenever it came out on the official day. Like they outsold some of the biggest Danish football clubs in terms of selling their Astralis jerseys, you know, for years and years. And today it's different. So they have a lot of problems at hand right now. And I would almost argue that HUNDEN is the least of their concerns. So I don't know.
It's poetic, though, that they've turned to the devil to pull them out of hell, right? Because realistically, if you wanted anyone to go, okay, these are the players I have to work with, these are their strengths and their weaknesses, how can I milk the most out of them? It's HUNDEN, right? We can talk about, you know, all the bad shit until the cows come home, you know, but we used to talk about HUNDEN as this guy that influenced many different in-game leaders throughout the Danish scene and the roots that he would have with all these different players and helping with scouting and all this kind of stuff. Right, that right there was how we used to talk about him before the bad stuff happened. So now this is the thing with, okay, he's not banned anymore. He can come in and he can have that influence. Now when I have to talk about him, not here on the podcast, when I'm doing my job at an analyst desk or I'm casting or something, the way that I'm going to have to talk about HUNDEN, and I'm not going to not say, hey, this guy's done some shady shit, because he has, and that can't be disputed. But you have to say as well what he's good at and what he brings to a team. And if Astralis start to play well, then he will be one of the influential factors alongside a Device coming back, right? Blame now, you know, maybe being a bit more diversified in the ways approaching the game. Maybe this Buzz kid's got some attitude to him as well. A conversation to be had. So in terms of surprise Pikachu face, yeah, we all knew this was going to happen. To see the outpour of, oh, you can't fucking do this. Well, maybe this is exactly what Astralis need, even though it's not the cleanest way to get there.
I agree. Like from a cynical point of view, like you need to understand that that's the best possible signing Astralis could have done. You know, in terms of getting whatever you call him, an analyst or a coach or someone to help, you know, rebuild this Astralis roster, maybe reigniting gade as well. You know, as an in-game leader, I think there's no one better to understand the game than HUNDEN, and no one better to give a guy like gade new inspiration or to integrate Device back into the lineup. And at least from that perspective, I can't name a single figure within the entirety of the esports scenes that I would rather have doing that job than HUNDEN. So if you exclude all the rest, you know, if you forget about all the cheating, if you forget about all the lack of communication and the poor way of handling that, I think in terms of, you know, making this move, you should be applauding Casper or whoever made that decision within Astralis, because it is a genius move. And right now, I think it's also a sign of you know, desperation within Astralis, because that's a move they would never ever make a year or a year and a half ago, right? They brand their whole brand being this very family friendly organization. You know, everything is running by the books, everything is very clean, streamlined, but they are willing to move away from that now because they're in such a desperate situation where all they need, right, as you said, Spinx, they just need to win. They just need to get back to be competitive, and they can always start working on, you know, building up the brand once again afterwards. So I agree with the decision. I think it's fantastic for them to sign HUNDEN, but there's a lot of question marks attached to it.
Okay, let's place Astralis here. Then we're done with this. We'll go to a quick ad break and we'll come back with the next little portion of the show. Do we think this is where are we putting this in the excitement scale? Striker, you're normally pretty level-headed. Where would you put this one?
Depends on which side of this argument do you stand, basically.
Well, there's
your side.
My side, I would put it somewhere like a little bit lower than it is now. I would say kind of like on par with the Cloud9 situation. I'd say.
Let me move some things around here. Look, we're interactive. Been doing my dioramas today. All right, we can whack it there. How does that look?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm pretty.
All right. How do we feel about this format?
Good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Fun. All right, I'll continue to do more arts and crafts.
We can just add a few, like a bit too much topics.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
you know, it was meant to be. It was meant to be quicker than it was. But you know,
if you
shit
had like
happens.
5, 6 less, I think it would be ideal.
All right, we'll workshop it. Lucas, let's go to the break. We'll be right back and we'll get into the next portion of the show.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with a swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
Game.
We're back from the break and we are getting straight into things with Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by BitSkins. Type BitSkins in the chat now for your chance to enter the draw. Now, if you haven't been here before, you haven't experienced a BitSkins quiz, 5 questions, multiple choice. Prof is the curator of said questions and most of the time the answers as well. Prof, is there a topic for today's quiz?
Yeah, it's about 2022.
Okay, so the year that was. And we're going to have Striker assisting Pimp here while doing the answers to said questions. Every question that the two of them are able to get correct will shift the slider up 1 slot of skins. And well, one lucky winner in the chat will be taking themselves.
To it, but you'll see.
Small
see
twist.
The first question.
All right. Let's see how we go. Question number 1. Let's get this thing underway here today. Lucas, dim the lights. Oh, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock on stage before winning the Oscar for which movie? King Richard, Nightmare Alley, or Licorice Pizza?
I have no clue, Pimp. Like, what about
fucking hell. I think King Richard.
Yeah, that's King Richard.
Yeah,
he's the dad of Serena and Venus Williams in the movie. Prof, you like this one?
Didn't watch.
Didn't watch.
Did you watch
the movie?
Pizza?
Did you watch the slap?
Yeah, I saw that.
Everybody saw
Do you
the
think
slap,
we're gonna
man.
have that in Stockholm?
What's the beef?
Who's the highest?
Well, it was over.
chance?
It was over a bold joke about Will's wife.
Yeah.
So if someone makes a bold joke about me,
you.
I can go and slap him.
That'd be great.
That could happen. I was gonna say I'm gonna pay Maniac to do it, but he's also balding, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It's just the way it goes, mate. You know,
Yeah.
we will get there.
We'll see. Paula could do it. With his fucking luscious hair.
Yeah, and he could take a slap as well.
Yeah, he likes to like
Fight people
tussle
and stuff.
roll down.
All right, well, I'm sure we can work something out there. All right, question number 2. The 1 from 1. Which artist's song from 1985 became a hit again this summer? The Talking Heads, Tears of Fears, or Kate Bush?
It appeared in a famous TV show, Netflix show, I guess. I don't know.
I'm lost. Completely lost.
You're asking pop
like
absolute shit to just a bunch of guys who watch Counter-Strike.
Exactly.
So it was Stranger Things. What was the show?
Okay, so that helps set why that music would have been used, because
I
it's
know
set
who
in that
Kate
time.
Bush is, but I don't know.
Well,
He's
you
the
guys
daughter of George Bush.
Are you singing, Lucas? Is it Lucas singing?
I think it was. Yeah,
maybe.
I just don't know. I don't even know. I have
What
no
was
idea.
these are the artists, right? Not the song.
These are artists.
So what was the song?
The song is Running Up That Hill. It's 5
We have
seconds.
5 seconds.
Pick something.
Kate Bush. Kate Bush.
I'm locking in Kate Bush.
That's what I was
I
going
hate
to
that
say
he's
too.
done this quiz. The correct answer is
Let's see if people
Kate
know
Bush.
anything about the world and what's going on.
Okay, is it a good song?
Yeah, it's a banger, as they call it.
All right. Well, let's get into question 3. I hope it's as awkwardly placed as that one. Question number 3. Croatia has started using the euro in 2023. Which currency was used before?
I know that one.
Zloty, ruble, or is that
Must be
kuna?
Must be kuna, right? Zloty is
yeah.
Polish and ruble is something else.
Russian.
Kuna. Russian, yeah.
It is, okay.
Kuna, yeah.
All right, Akuna Matata. It means no worries for the rest of their days now that Croatia is using the euro. So welcome. Welcome. It's good to have you. Enjoy your
The
time.
last 8 days, huh? That you started using the euro.
What? Yeah. It's confusing. Everything is 30% more expensive than it was a week ago. It's amazing.
So you're enjoying being part of Europe now, mate. All right, let's get into question 4. 3 from 3. This is going well. Morocco made history at the Football World Cup by reaching which phase of the event? Quarters, semis, or the finale?
I watched that. They wasted the
semis, no?
Finals, yeah. Semifinals, yeah. They beat Portugal.
I didn't watch this, but I know that this was a thing.
I thought Pimp, this was going to be an easy one for you.
Yeah, it was. I'm just...
It wasn't the final because
semis.
that was Argentina and France, right?
Yeah, they beat Portugal in the quarterfinal. Yeah, it's they reached the semifinals.
Locking in the semifinals. Correct answer is semifinal. All right. 5th question here. This is for 5 for 5 to kick off the year. HLTV Confirmed for 2023 with Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. Could we get 100% on the first go? Question 5. Who won the Australian Open after Djokovic's visa was cancelled? Don't even know how to say the first guy's name. Nadal or Federer?
Pass. Nadal, Federer.
This was like this time last year.
I mean, Federer like retired straight,
he didn't
like
win,
super shortly after that. So I would say no.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
He didn't win.
Must be Nadal, then.
I would hazard a guess and say Nadal, but I don't watch.
I don't know who the other guy is.
It's a Greek guy, I think.
That's how it sounds. Yeah.
I think it was Nadal, to be honest.
We're gonna go with Nadal.
Yeah, let's go with Nadal.
Because I've got no idea. The correct answer is Nadal. All right, 5 from 5. Congratulations, Striker and Pimp. You've been able to get through this one. This was the first non-Counter-Strike edition of Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. But skins will still be given away here. Lucas is currently drawing the winner. Thank you for getting your votes. Well, your raffle tickets in. The winner is Oshkosh Josh 4. Oshkosh Josh. Our people will be reaching out to your people to get you your skin. Thank you for tuning in. That's Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by BitSkins. All right, let's keep this one moving. We're getting into a bit of a preview of 2023. Now, before we get there, we've got a couple more bits and bobs to get through. Let's get the N1 moment out of the way here as well, Lucas. I know that I'm asking you to do a lot right now, so just say, yes, Chad, I'm ready, when you're ready to bring up the N1 moment. And otherwise, I can just keep talking around.
We're talking about the top 20 stuff?
Yeah, so this was a bit more of a difficult one to find something for the N1 moment for this week. But what we've opted to go with here is, as the top 20 has been going on over the last week and a bit, people from around the community have been creating, artwork, right? So there's stuff on Reddit that you're able to find there. Who's the gentleman that makes this one right here?
Work.
This is an image of Queserato. This is by what is that? Art and Flesh. On the Reddits. There's also I remember this gentleman for the next one we've got here is of Stown, made by Allo_CSGO. So people are just making these like caricatures, these things of the players who are appearing in the top 20. And lastly, there's a bloke who's been getting the best highlights, and these are basically just clips ripped from stream, but just of each player who's getting announced in the top 20 and where they place. And you can just go and get a quick little summary of their highlights. So his YouTube channel is Mousy, MOUSY CSGO. And he just has a bunch of different highlights of all the players. So kind of just wanted to bring light to the people who are doing things around the top 20. So now the top 20, Prof, it's so big that people are making shit.
Yeah, it's cool. I saw an article, I don't know which site. There was some site that they were doing like the prediction of the awards, like who's going to win what. I think that was pretty cool. And there's just a lot of coverage of all of the nominees and stuff like that. So I feel like that's really exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to bring a bit of light to that. And now we've done that. Now we can get into this little bit of a roadmap. So from the N1 moment into the year that we're about to have. Now, I've been at work today with my arts and crafts, everybody. We've been really prepping for today's episode to make sure we have enough things to get us through this conversation. Sorry, Lucas? Let's go with the timeline first here. So what we're going to do here is basically I've created a timeline of the major events that are going to be taking place this year. Now, that's very difficult for you to see. So I'm going to put a link.
We're going to have to...
I'm going to put a link for you guys.
Right? You can zoom in.
All right, I'm trusting you. So,
wow.
2020. Look at that. You can fucking zoom. Who would have thought, man? This is crazy shit, man.
It's a Wilson again.
But 2023 is kicking off, right? We're going to have the player break come to close on the 15th. I should have put that second and the HLTV award show first, but regardless, look, that's how that's ended up. But the tournament break for the players will be coming to an end on the 15th of January. Just before that will be the HLTV award show. Had to get that plug in there. And then after that is the only dates that Blast have announced for the year so far. The rest of them are me taking stabs in the dark of where they'll most likely end up. So the Blast Premier Spring groups to start the year. We're going to have a graphic as well coming up after we've gone through this timeline to show everybody who the partner teams are of where and where you can expect your teams to be playing. As the year progresses, we find ourselves into Katowice very quickly, start of February. Then after that, we're straight into Pro League. There's a week break between those two events. Pro League runs for about a month and a half. Then there's about 2 weeks after Pro League comes to conclusion in March, where the RMR window is for Blast. That's where Blast will be running their RMRs. And now this is where it gets interesting. Up until this stead, there isn't a whole lot of room in the calendar for the qualifiers, the closed qualifiers or the open qualifiers to qualify for the RMR, gentlemen. So there's going to have to be some overlap here with Pro League. That's the only thing that seems to make sense. Have you had a look at any of this, Striker?
No, but I know that the Blast are going to announce something fairly soon with regards to the major. I think even Nico was kind of like teasing something on Twitter when I think you even asked him about, no, it was Messioso, I think, who asked him about like RMR qualifiers, RMR dates, blah, 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 all that stuff. And there was like an IMOG thing. I think they're going to announce this fairly soon, so we should know.
Okay. So I think that this is going to cause some issues, but if it's well scheduled, it shouldn't be too many dramas. But yeah, that's something that we got to keep an eye out for.
I mean, something to keep in mind is that EPL is always just four teams. Six. What is it going to be? 6 teams at a time, right? No, 8 teams at a time.
They
changed it. 8 teams at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, like it's four groups, 4 weeks. So I'm sure there's some way to work around it.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, with the whole invite close qualifier thing, like not a lot of teams will have to play the open qualifiers that
That's
are
true
in EPL.
as well.
I feel like probably none of them, maybe 1 or 2, will have to play the open
But some
qualifiers.
teams from the conference for sure.
Yeah, but they're not going to get far anyway. So I think that's probably going to work out okayish. But I just hope they announce it on time and don't really make last minute changes. Like for example, the conference thing that was updated like 10 days ago or something about when it's starting and stuff like that.
In a couple days time. Yeah.
Fucked over some players that wanted to go to the award show, for example. And just crazy, actually, especially now that I'm kind of behind the scenes in terms of scheduling. It's crazy how late some of these things get decided. Like, for example, the whole Blast schedule kind of came out. When it came out publicly, it's when players also knew when they were playing and shit like that. Yeah. So that's like couple of days ago. It's like 2 weeks before they need to be in Copenhagen is when they get the dates. And for the whole thing about like the preseasons, boot camps and plans, 1 or 2 days makes a huge difference in terms of like, are you going to even go to a boot camp if you only have 4 or 5 days? But if it's 6 or 7, you know, it makes sense. Or when they're going to fly in, when they're going to fly out, how to book all of these things. It's very, I'm kind of confused as to why it's still happening this late, and especially for something like Blast, which is partner teams. Like how are they okay with this?
It happens so late because the companies are snowed under. They don't have enough employees. That's how this happens, right?
But they also, like what Blast are doing, they're doing this whole like seeding from teams, and they also need to like wait for the roster changes to come in. So there's like a lot of these steps that need to happen. But I don't know. I feel like they're maybe not prioritizing the right things. They're prioritizing maybe, you know, having the perfect seeding when the seeding doesn't even matter that much, honestly. Like,
not for their, because it's essentially exhibition matches, right? Because it's all their partner teams.
It's a bit, sure, but it's a bit different now, at least that where the first stage actually does matter, like how the seeding is, because the winner goes straight to the spring final now of the first double elimination stage, while before it was just seeding purposes. So,
but then they get another chance and another chance. Like it only matters within their circuit.
Well,
right?
I mean,
in isolation, it matters.
It's actually it's a little bit more streamlined than it was before. It's not as much. It's not as confusing about who goes where and like what a match actually means something. There is a fairly clear evolution to the tournament now. So at least there's that.
Yeah, but if we're talking about like the whole, let's talk about the season, essentially the first 6 months of the year. It's kind of obvious what are the biggest tournaments, and it is, you know, you go Katowice is the big early one, but I also don't think that teams will be at their peak for Katowice.
It means different things.
How it's early, yeah.
Do you think it means, like, because the way I look at this is the Blast Premier Spring group teams, so those chosen 12, get LAN warm-up matches, which can work for or against them going into Katowice. So Katowice is like, okay, the new shine, everything that's been worked off on the player break. Maybe teams spent longer pracking. Maybe teams are coming with a couple of unique strats. Maybe teams are taking advantage of Anubis, whatever that is. Katowice is like the first big one that we're going to have where someone is going to lift a tier 1 trophy, but everybody's still pretty green. So it's going to be, okay, which team is quickest to get out the gates hot? Which team is not fucking about? Which team hasn't stayed too long on holidays? Which team has had a successful boot camp? That's what Katowice is for me. And then you go out of that into the next about month and a bit of seeing teams that we wouldn't normally see, right, in the Blast circuit, because the Pro League is going to involve a lot more teams from outside of the Blast circuit, right, coming in. It's 32-team event now, right? So many more names are going to be available to be seen, and some of those names are going to be regional teams, which are then going to play into the RMRs, which will be coming up. So the Pro League ramp up, we get to see where everybody's at. We get to see where if any of these teams from the outside, the peripheries, can contend with the bigger names going into the RMRs. Okay, we go into the RMRs. We get to see, is there any European upsets? Because that's usually where the upsets happen. Doesn't really happen in the other regions as much. And then you go into more ramping events. You have a Blast Spring Showdown, which is regionally divided, or at least it was. So you'll see those two get another chance to play some officials. IEM Spring is probably a 16-team event, I would imagine, normally how ESL do it.
Yeah, that's one of the events which I feel like is going to be probably one of the worst events in terms of the quality of teams.
You think people are saving strats?
Because of the schedule. You know, you have the RMR, and then after that you have the showdown that a lot of teams need to play. European teams will need to play that are Blast partnered, right? And then after that, you have to go to Brazil, and that's the Brazilian. It's confirmed that that's going to be the Brazilian event. We don't know exactly where. And then from there, fly back for the major. I feel like if there's one event that you're going to want to skip, is that, and they're like,
I mean, there's 2 weeks in between. I don't think that's that big of a deal in this case.
It just depends if you need the reps or not. If you're a team who thinks you need the reps, you'll go and you'll play. If you're a team that doesn't think you need the reps and you're like the best team so far.
But then you have like a month between there. You're basically going to have an entire month where you don't play anything, and the RMRs itself, so it's going to be fairly quick as well. So it could be like a month and a half, or like almost 2 months with EPL. Let's say they go out early of EPL, and like the next thing that they're going to play is going to be like Blast. So I think you're right. Like teams who kind of need to play will definitely have to play that spring tournament. And it's like there's a 2-week break between that and the major. I feel like nobody's going to complain about like, oh, we can't like boot camp before the major because we went to spring. You know, there's 2 weeks.
But this is how teams work. Let me see the date. So the IM Spring ends on the 23rd, 25th. 23rd. So 23rd, travel day, 24th. You travel back. You need to have like 4 or 5 days off. Then you want to have a boot camp. Then you have a boot camp, which is 1 week. You're laughing, but I talk to these people. This is how it works. They want 4 days at home, not completely off, but like at home. Then they go to a boot camp for maybe 7 days. Then they go back home for like 3-4 days, and then they go back to the event. And that's a lot of traveling. I don't know if it's worth it. You know, it's kind of on the edge there in terms of, because then you go to the major and then you're 2 weeks at the major. So do you want to like have that intense of a schedule where you're only at home for like 7 days in a month and a half? Maybe not, right? So if the major is, the major is the most important thing. So I feel like some of the like top 5-6 teams, they're probably going to skip, unless, as you guys say, they really didn't play a lot before that.
I like the build up to the major though, like looking at the schedule and looking at the tournament and what they mean. You know, Katowice coming in early, the Blast group stage, you know, just for a few selected teams. It feels like all the teams have a decent chance of actually structuring their calendar so they could peak at the major. And I think that's what we're all interested in, that we want the teams to be at their absolute best at the major. Whether or not they're going to go to Brazil and you know, get the reps or skip that tournament, that's up to each individual team. I think I'm on the side of Striker in the sense that there's a 2-week break, right? So you should be able to go back and still rest and come up with some new stuff and still have time for a boot camp. But we get a schedule right here, at least from the way I'm seeing it, that is leading up to the major more or less in a perfect way. So we should have all teams at their absolute best. Also, the fact that there's a month between the RMR and the major to start as well, that's good for me. So that means that all the teams that are not playing, there will be teams who are qualifying for the major that are not playing in some of these bigger tournaments as well. They actually have a month of lead up, where they can boot camp for a couple of weeks and come into the major in absolute best shape.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, then it's going to affect the events after the same way that it was before. I think Dallas was the same place, right? It also was right after the first major of the year, the Antwerp major,
and
a bunch of teams skipped that or just weren't very good at it because it was right after the major, and then there's going to be Blast Spring Finals, which we assume is going to be in very close succession to that. So like you're not going to want to go from Paris to Dallas to potentially like a European Blast Spring Finals or whatever it is, So
well, the thing is, you don't have choices though. If you're a partner team of Blast,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like Blast,
you have to go.
I think you'll definitely have to go to Blast, but not IEM Dallas because that's going to be like one of the events that's based on a ranking, like you're going to be, or based on your partner status, you might be invited to, but you don't have to necessarily accept all of them.
And another reason that you might want to go to that Dallas event, it would depend on the team, is the Intel Grand Slam, right? So different teams are going to have different incentive structures to go to different events. And
sorry to cut you off, pretty sure the showdown as well is played online, right? When it's just a showdown.
True.
We don't know though.
Yeah, but we don't know for sure. But I think that's how it's been the last couple of times. And
yeah,
but they've been kind of like ramping up to a place where I feel like they want to hold it online. I've heard like some of the talk about that, so it's possible that like it will transition into a LAN tournament. But I mean, we'll see.
So it culminates in the major, and then everything after is kind of, if you want to try and take home all the marbles for the year, I guess, or for the season, that like you'd be, if one team's been dominant, they want to keep trying to be dominant, but the decisions on if you're going to attend these events will have to be made before the major anyway. So that's one of the things that's probably going to come into play there as well. So then tournament break's going to start on June 12th.
The Spring Finals is the last event of the season,
as far as I'm aware.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it should be,
yeah. And then we have the tournament break concluding on July 9th. So there's the month of break for holiday for the players in the middle of the year. They didn't like it where it was moved to. So I've heard rumors that next year it might get moved back to where it was previously, but that's a conversation for next year, not for now.
Can I have a question here for Pimp?
Bring it.
You said you just replied in chat to a guy saying there isn't an important event in NA. You said there will be soon enough. Do you have anything you want to share?
Not at all. I just think that we're going to get back to America soon enough.
Oh,
okay.
I hope so, at least. We need it. We need it for the sake of Counter-Strike and for the sake of actually, having NA team still foster talent and be around and have a fan base in NA. So I'm pretty sure that if I were the TOs, at least, I would make sure that both Blast and ESL are looking into to involve themselves more into the NA community. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more NA tournaments coming.
I think it would be convenient for the spring final to be in NA, considering how close that and Dallas are. But
we don't know the dates for that, right? So it'll be an issue if you fly into NA, fly back, and then fly in a week after. I don't think that'll be. But who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah, if Blast would announce their dates, then we would know. That would be nice. Thank you, Blast. Because all of the ESL dates are available.
Yeah, but I mean, we can definitely see where it's
meant to be.
For sure. Like,
with the blank space.
Yeah, exactly. There's like only a few spaces where it can be. So.
Oh shit. Okay, so yeah, we go into the player break. So that's the first half of the year done, and then coming out of that, it's going to be same kind of thing, right? We come out of it with the Blast Premier 4 groups. That's the soft entry into the year, right, for the partner teams. Then we go straight into a big event. We go into IEM Cologne. This will be the first time it's after the break as opposed to before the break. Then we go into another Pro League season. Same situation as before. Then after the Pro League season concludes, that's where the RMR window for second major of the year, which we don't know who's running that or where that is yet. Then after that, we have Blast Premier Fall Showdown, the IEM Fall, which doesn't have a location just yet in October. Then the major begins. And
Catch
then
up, Lucas. Catch up. I'm just trying to.
Oh, he's a little bit, but we're almost at the bottom, Lucas. It's just the same shit. We're down in October, November. Second half of the second major of the year will finish on the 12th of November. We'll have the Blast Premier Fall Finals. Then we will have, I think there was an Alyssa Masters late this year, right? So I think that they want to try and do something again next year. And then, or this year, sorry, fucking hell, still early in January. And then Blast Premier World Finals to finish off the year will probably be the last event. So we're kind of using a bit of a blueprint of what happened last year, but we already know where all of ESL's events are. We're just trying to fill in the gaps with Blast and if there's any other notable ones outside of the major circuit. So that's basically the year ahead of Counter-Strike here. And it's the two halves are very similar in how they're going to unfold, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? When our team's gonna peak? When do we have the best Counter-Strike played?
I feel like Pro League they should be playing really good Counter-Strike in Pro League to be ready for the major, right? Like at that point, your base needs to be strong. Your fundamentals need to be strong in Pro League so that you can add the garnish and like the little bits and bobs on top of like a pocket strategy or a unique way to do this or that leading into the major cycle, right? That's the way, you know. So if your fundamentals are looking shit by Pro League, you're probably not going to go very far in the major. But if your fundamentals are looking strong, then you have time to add on top of that. So that's kind of how I'm going to gauge it, I think, from now.
I think it depends. Obviously, it will depend on the teams. You know, like if you look at a team like an IP, maybe they're going to need a little bit more time, and it's going to be more closer to the major, or even after where they're going to peak because you know they've just brought in a new opera and potentially like some cultural changes that they'll have to happen with that. But like I mean, with teams that we know the lineups of and that we've known that we know aren't changing, then that's probably going to be more along the lines of what you're saying. You know, I mean, for them, obviously they have enough of a baseline to be at a high level in Katowice already. Like we know what kind of phase are going to turn up most likely. You know that that's going to be one of the main contenders. Heroic, same thing. You know, this is a team that we've seen compete for high placings for a while now, and so like it just depends on what team you are. But I think you're right in terms of like APLs where teams will get enough of playtime, maybe except for Astralis. That would be the one exception that I would have because they only have to play like lower tier tournaments. Probably they will have to play something like that because they're not in Katowice. They have nothing until APL apart from the Blast groups. So that's the one team that I would say is like out of the top teams, out of the partners and stuff like that. That's probably going to have to wait a little bit longer before they can reach that.
Okay. So yeah, in terms of this blueprint of the year, this roadmap, is there anything that's like missing? Like I wanted to put the WePlay stuff in here, but is there anything that you guys think that the calendar should have, or anything that I don't mean from me adding it? I just mean like, is there any points along this journey? Because we all want the structure to be changed. We all want the major to be the last event, and that will hopefully happen one day. But this is what we have right now. This seems pretty good.
Yeah, seems pretty good. I think the lead up to the first major is going to be great. I think just to build in your question as well, I think later stages of Pro League and moving into the RMR, I think that's when we get to see some of the teams, be at close peak level, because we also have to acknowledge the fact that the RMR, especially in Europe, like you need to be at your best if you want to qualify. Otherwise, you may risk ending up, pulling off a G2 where you are playing good Counter-Strike. They did a Pro League leading into the RMR, but maybe they lost a bit of confidence by losing the quarterfinal, semi-final in Pro League, went in straight into the RMR and got busted out by teams that they should be winning against. So I think, the lead up to the major is good. And I'm also curious to see, you said WePlay, but all these like smaller star ladder events, the Epicenter, whatever they were called back in the days, I think more and more on those are returning. CCT, I think there's a lot of those events returning as well now that we're out of COVID, that we don't really have, the risk of having to cancel an event. I think we're seeing more events, in Dubai, et cetera. They want to invest into our esports fair and get a taste of that as well. So I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for some of the tier 2, tier 3 teams to get LAN experience as well, even though you're not qualifying for the IEMs, for the Blast, et cetera. So hopefully we get to have, two calendars working at the same time, sort of one for the tier 1 teams and one for the rest that still have an opportunity to gain ranks and gain points.
Yeah, I mean, the Elisa tournament was really good, the Elisa Masters in Finland. Yeah. So hopefully we have that back. CCT did promise a lot of like smaller, like 8-team events in Europe, some of them in NA as well for this year, from what I remember. Striker can, yeah, right. So there should be a couple of events from that, from those tournament organizers coming in as well for the, as Pimp says, the kind of the tier 1.5, tier 2, maybe even, some of the better teams that either get eliminated from EPL early or not playing, maybe play the first tournament of the first group and then have like 5 weeks off. Maybe they can fit in some of the smaller tournaments as well. So that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, these have always been kind of cool, and it's kind of like, while the calendar maybe isn't the best for that, like the EPL group stage is kind of where a lot of these teams can play some of these smaller things if they end up cropping up, because only some of them play at the same time. Like there are weekends where a bunch of them aren't going to be playing anything, maybe even 2-3 weekends in a row. So I think that's a good space to put some of these tournaments that are going to be kind of overlapping with EPL, but not like with the important part of EPL. So there's going to be space for it.
I've put up a Venn diagram here. This is more of my arts and crafts of the day, just so you at home, the viewer, can see where your teams are and what it's going to mean for them with everything we've just discussed right now. So we've obviously got it broken up on the Venn diagram part here to the ESL Louvre agreement teams, and then the Blast partner teams, and then the both. OG are the only team who are just a Blast partner team. They're not included in the Louvre agreement. And you can see that for Mouse, Fnatic, Furia, and ENCE, those teams are just part of the Louvre agreement and not part of both. And then you have, I guess, these would be your power teams in the middle, with the exception of your EGs and your complexities. Maybe even you could have an argument about big, but the rest of the names, those are the mega star names that we'd love to see. And then just filling out the rest of the top 20 as it stands right now, the notable non-partnered teams, as it currently is like Sprout, Bad News Eagles, Spirit, Cloud9, Outsiders, and Gamer Legion. So some decent competitive names in the mix. So long story short, we all know that the Blast partner teams get multiple opportunities, right? They'll play in the Blast group, they'll play in the showdown, and if they are one of the unlucky few who don't make it all the way to the finals, then yeah, they won't play in the finals. But there's a chance to play in, I guess it's 3 different events over the course of the season for those, whereas the partner teams for the Louvre agreement, they are all in Pro League, and then the rest of that is made up through a bunch of different ways, qualifiers, rankings, whatnot. And then this is where a lot of the conversation you guys were just having about the smaller events or those events on the cusp is maybe where a team like Outsiders or Cloud9, right? Where we also didn't mention like the ESL Challenger events, for example, right? Like those are events here that like Outsiders and Spirit and shit will probably want to go and just farm some easy wins and get some LAN reps in. Like those are events that will be open to them because they'll be high in the rankings. They likely get an invite, but something that FaZe probably don't want to go to. So, you know, that there's always going to be those options available to some of these teams. And another cause for those teams to want to play in those events is that's how they can qualify, at least depending if BSL don't keep changing it, into other events, right? So it all is connected in that way. But this was here just to illustrate where your team is and where they may be playing as part of that roadmap that we put out there.
Do you think anything is going to change in terms of the partnerships for next year? Because out of what when you look at this, there's an obvious team that stands out that doesn't make sense that they're not a part of anything, and that's Cloud9. Do you think it might?
Don't you have to pay to be a partner team now?
Yeah,
though?
but now that I think about it, now that I mentioned this, is this maybe a part of like the whole ESL restructuring of the EPL? Because like they're kind of reaching a point of how many partner teams they could have without over.
You think going 32 teams means they can have more partner teams?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, they could, right? Because it would still seem like there's enough open spots.
And it is true, right? So maybe this is a part of what they're kind of trying to do. Not really no like big tinfoil hat here, but it does make sense.
Decent suggestion for sure.
Yeah, on the Blast side, they are kind of limited unless they want to expand to 16 teams, which would be kind of cool, not gonna lie, just because. And if they could have more in like maybe on just wildcard teams, not even qualifiers, you know, just invite people that are not a part of the circuit to be a part of the early stages of the thing. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's hopefully something that is up for discussion, but who knows what's going on over there really. So yeah, this is the lay of the land in that regard. I thought the visual would be easier for everyone to digest it, and that's just kind of where we're at. We've had to deal with this now for, I guess it's really just been the last couple of years of things starting to go more and more in this way. I don't think we're in a terrible position. And I think like a lot of people have fond memories of like smaller TOs running events and being like, oh, this was such a fun event. But there's a lot of things that the fan misses, and it's not spoken about. I don't know why it's not spoken about as much, but like the quality at some of these events that you go to in terms of the way that you were looked after, or were there prac rooms, or if there were prac rooms, you know, what were the quality of the monitors and the PCs in those rooms? You know, and when you have certain TOs that'll get you your own room, or they'll put you in business class flights or whatever, that's why you see a lot of these guys move to playing these events, because that's something that I think people forget. They just kind of slap a label on the company name, like fuck Blast or fuck ESL, but like these orgs had to be complicit in being part of this. It wasn't like they were fucking stolen and locked in a cage and made to play Counter-Strike. Like, people have agreed that these are the best TOs and they give the best quality of, you know, I guess satisfaction to all the metrics that these companies have to hit. and they seem to be quite happy with that, right? So
yeah, I mean, shit is expensive, so it makes sense. Like even if you go down to like a ESL Challenger event, you're not gonna get the same thing you get with an IM, right? Or an ESL 1 doesn't exist anymore, right?
Nope.
So there's differences in terms of how you're treated, and that just it makes sense why people kind of skip and pick and choose. And Blast pays single rooms for everyone for like 8 people for team, and ESL does double rooms for like 6 people, and then people enjoy other events more, and that's kind of how it works. Then they bring their girlfriends because they have a free room, and then they're happy, and the girlfriend's happy, so then they're happy. And this is the bullshit that is CSGO esports, and we'll see if this continues in 2023 or the economic crisis tightens up some budgets, and then we have all of our events in Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia. We'll see.
All right, we're dooming right now. We didn't need to be dooming, but okay. So in terms of looking at the year, is there any other big things here that we need to talk about, guys? Because we looked at that roadmap, we've kind of presented the ramp on for teams. Jacob, about this time of year, you're expecting teams to be getting into boot camps, ready to get on things way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd argue that. I think bootcamping is becoming less significant than it used to be, given that like when you're going to a Blast event or when you're going to an ESL event, I feel like most teams treat that as a bootcamp sometimes. I think we saw it during the major as well in Rio. A lot of the teams came in early and had access to bootcamp facilities or had access to practice rooms. So the hardcore bootcamps that we used to know are being used less and less. But of course, you do have, boot camps coming into bigger tournaments. And I think it's a great way of starting up a year. We saw Astralis doing that every year, and making a big PR stunt out of the fact that they were meeting up, doing not play stuff, but just, being in a wilderness or being in the snow or whatever the fuck they were doing, without playing Counter-Strike. So I think we're moving a little bit away from the regular boot camps and the significance of how important they are, because you're traveling, you're playing so many tournaments, and you may as well treat, the 3 days leading up to a tournament in a practice room as a little boot camp coming into it. So I'm not too fussed about it.
Anything else, gentlemen, that we want to?
We need to do the question of the week.
Question of the week? What's the question of the week?
Let me see. I screenshotted a few questions.
Because we're going to jump into this time capsule.
Oh, we want to do that before and question at the end?
Well, it depends on what the question is.
Let's.
Do we want to make a song and a dance about the question? If we want to make a song and a dance about the question, we can wait until after the time capsule.
Let's do the question. It's kind of an okay question.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of related to where we are. The question was from Alex whatever on Instagram.
Alex whatever.
He says, "What are the chances of a team having a dominant era? The skill gap is so small, it seems impossible. This is for like the next year."
Okay. I think the chances are pretty low. I would say maybe like 30%. And then if I had to put that 30% on a team who I think would have a dominant era, I'd have a hard time doing that. But I think it's quite difficult at the moment with the landscape of Counter-Strike. And when you can sit back in hindsight and look at what the greatest team of all time grew out of, right? You have to look at where Astralis were in that time, the losses that they had, the roster changes that they had made, and then who they became. Having a hard time identifying another team who feels primed to make that kind of a leap. So it's also the momentum for any of the teams towards the tail end of the year, like G2 winning a trophy, sure, but there's no momentum to be carried through. Everyone's had a break. Everyone's reset. People have gone on holidays. People have taken time away from the mouse and keyboard. So I have a very difficult time thinking it is going to be a dominant era of Counter-Strike ahead of us.
What do you guys think?
I think, if anything, the fact that we saw, like I was going to mention that it's more difficult to make the perfect move, as you said, Chad, earlier. And that's kind of what also prevents teams from reaching the peak that they would want to, because they just have to settle with like number 2s, number 3 options. Sometimes not even that, because contracts are just fairly limiting these days, and it's much harder to get players out of teams. And so we saw FaZe make the perfect move, and they were on course to having some sort of an era, but even they didn't make it. Even they fell off at some point for reasons that are still very difficult to gauge. And maybe it could be just like because other teams, matched up to them. Maybe other teams could just caught up. And that means, if you're a team like FaZe, as stacked as them, making the best change that you could possibly make and still not be able to go on to have your own era, I guess you can say that they had a mini era, but not long enough for us to compare it to the likes of Fnatic or Astralis. Obviously, compared to an IP, I mean, that's just an entirely different conversation. So I think you're right. I think it's fairly unlikely.
I'd agree with that. I don't see any don't see any teams right now having the ability to take over. I will say that I feel like the change of the M4, is going to increase that chance slightly. I feel like the game is a little bit less, it has a high skill ceiling now. I think most people will move over to the old M4, and we're not going to see too much of the silencer. And I feel like that weapon was simply too easy for even like a C level or B level player could own the best of the best. That's also what I got, from talking to some of the pro players. They felt that practice and playing games had never been more random with the M4 and the silencer meta. So removing that, maybe increases the chances slightly, but we're talking 1 or 2%, of someone, being able to do that.
I
agree.
And also, like we haven't fully seen the ramifications of what Anubis is going to do. There was obviously a talk around it about in the Blast World Finals about all these teams and them playing Dust 2, so now they're going to have to embrace this new map, or are they? That it also is going to have legs to it. That's going to develop, because everybody thought that they had the biggest brain on Anubis when they first came out, right? You remember what Jane was saying in interviews and shit. So I think it's going to take a little while for that stuff to simmer in, but that's the thing, that I kind of want to get hit with something that we're not expecting. Like if some team does just come in and just go, okay, well, we fucking cracked it. Like that's what's going to be exciting about this, right? And
and there are a couple of teams that can do it,
era.
right? I think there are a couple of teams that in theory could do it, and that would be FaZe can come back for sure. I think there's a chance that like Cloud9 do it with Buster. Maybe they figure out a solution. I would say there's a theory where Liquid could do it.
Okay.
Like they have
Strike is listening.
Okay. There's a chance, but like I don't see rest of the I don't see Navi with Nipple doing it like that. I don't think there's a chance for that, unfortunately. So not a lot of teams. Like it's very unlikely in my case as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into this little time capsule, because it's basically the same type of a thing that we were just discussing just there. So this is what we're going to take a look at today, and you in Twitch chat can get involved as well. Maybe we'll record what you guys say. A poll would be great, but I can't organize all those things at once. Now, what we're going to do here, gentlemen, with this time capsule is we're going to whack a timer on screen. Right? It's going to be a 30-second timer. Everyone gets about 30 seconds to have a quick little spurt of what they want to say and why, right? Of each of these offerings here. So the
30 seconds in total for all three?
30 seconds for each.
Okay.
Oh, actually, we could do 30 for all three.
Yeah.
You want to do 30 for all three or 30 for each?
Yeah. Yeah, we have 2 minutes in total. That's how much. That's the time capsule standard.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So for each person, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. So the topics are a number one team at the break, which we discussed was going to be in mid-June. Who is going to be the winner of the Blast Paris Major, and who's going to be the major MVP. So basically what we're doing here is we're trying to play Nostradamus, because this is some fucked up shit. As we just spoke about, there's no way for us to really think who the favorite is going to be for the season, because we don't have one. We all just said we don't think anyone's going to be dominant. So right now, I guess this is where we have to use our gut. Does anybody want to go first here? Does anybody want to give this one a crack? If not, it's all good. I'll draw straw. You got it, Striker?
I have like kind of a much less safe one than you would expect. I mean, half and half, I would say. I can start.
Let's start the timer, Lucas. Are you ready? All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so for the actual safe part, I do think that FaZe are going to remain the number one over like the half of the year. But I do think that just because I think they are going to be the most consistent, they've kind of shown that over even the course of the second half of the year, even though they didn't win anything, they were still competing for high placings apart from Rio. I think they're going to keep doing that. I think they're too strong for
10 seconds
for that. I know. But for the major and for the MVP, I'll go with G2 and Monacy.
Oh, okay.
I think
there is that HLTV bias.
Can peak that guy high, and they can peak that high. They just aren't as consistent.
Okay.
Pimp next. Let's go.
Checks in the mail. Pimp, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
I think Danish bias aside or not, I think Heroic is going to be the best team for the first 6 months. I think they finally cracked it with Yabi coming into the team. I think it's a very strong statement that Shoes re-signed his contract as well. So they're now sticking together, even though I know Astralis were trying heavily to get him. It's a very strong lineup. They have a different approach to the game than a lot of other teams. And I do think we're going into a half a year where some of the normal favorites will struggle a little bit. FaZe is still going to be very competitive, but I think Heroic over the course of this 6 months is going to be the best teams. For the major as well, it could be a Heroic win, but I'm actually siding with G2 and Monacy as well. I don't know why, but I think Monacy is going to have a fantastic year where he could title and contend to be the best in the world. So let's go for G2 and Monacy.
Yeah, okay. Fuck, I know. Prof, We've got some G2 fans. If you were thinking G2, mate, you better come up with something more creative right now.
You kind of changed the two of them gave the answer to #1 team in the first half of the year, not at the break. So like
that's the same thing.
No, they took the average.
If you win the major, you're probably going to be the #1 team at the break. So it's much better to
two events after. Doesn't have to be.
Sure, but it's highly likely that they're not going to just bomb out the next 2 events. You know.
Okay, so you're still picking the #1 team at the end of the at the end of the year. That at the end of the 6 months. That's a prediction we're doing.
That would be G2, who I assume.
I mean, no.
No, wait, he said FaZe.
No, I said at the beginning, like over the course of the half a year, I think FaZe are going to be the #1 team. I didn't
want to win the major.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, all right, it's fine.
Okay, so we're just doing average of the year instead of at the break.
It can be that for me is fucking 6 months, right? I mean, it's not a real 6 months. I'm not using actual days.
The point is like it's 1 point in time rather than like over the course of the season, you know.
Well, we're going with the break, but if they say 6 months, Prof, just assume that the 2 of them are interchangeable.
No. What I want to say is like if you just to clarify this.
Here we go.
There is the season, like who is best in the season is like all results of the season, and who is the best at the break is just in that moment, right?
Yes.
The last 3 months.
Yes. Well, it felt like that.
Let's just take the average. Let's just take the average.
The average because again, like the major is too close to the break for it not to be, but possibly. You know?
I am ready.
Who?
I'm gonna take FaZe for the best team of the half year. Makes most sense. They're the safest option. But then for the major winner and MVP, I was thinking between a couple of teams. I think you can't count out ZywOo and Simple in terms of this. I'm just gonna be absolutely ridiculous and say the Paris aspect is gonna like motivate Apeks, and it's gonna be a Vitality ZywOo.
Oh, okay. So, all right. I don't hate it. The national pride for the gentleman to get it across the line. Okay. But this is the thing. I was just going to go the G2 scapegoat road, which is, a mouthful.
Scapegoat road. Give your picks. And then we can
I want to kind of change them a bit. So it's a little bit different. I don't want to just fucking be the same as everybody else. It's a bit hard.
You're going to say FaZe and G2 as well, or what?
Well, I don't know what I genuinely think. Like, I haven't actually sat here and thought about who I thought was going to be the best teams. I've kind of just been off in fairyland so far. I don't know. I should have been thinking, boys. I haven't been doing my homework. I've been too busy making dioramas and graphics and shit. Yeah. Okay. So with the year starting, there has to be. Oh, okay. Oh, the things we know and the things we don't. You know, it's a fine line sometimes. All right.
What do you know, Chad?
Are you ready, Lucas? All right, hear me.
3, 2, 1.
So I think if we're going with the average of over the course of the season, I'm going to go with NAVI. I think they're going to have like consistent high placings, right? So it's going to keep them towards the top of the pops. But in terms of trophies, I don't know how many they're going to have in the cabinet. So I'm going to stick with the tried and tested NAVI. They're that horse. They just never give up, right? They can chug along and they're going to continue to do so. I wanted to pander to the G2 stuff. I've only got 8 seconds. Fuck it. Let's just go with FaZe are going to win the second major and Twist is going to be the MVP because he's fucking nuts. Bang. Boom. There we go. I made it in time.
Am I being ridiculous for saying heroic? Does any of you believe
No, I think that's I
think it's fair.
I think the G2 picking them for the major, I'm like, that gave me confidence to pick Vitality.
I'm also counting on a roster change for G2, before the major, so we should be fine in that regard.
Really?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Fucking hell.
Okay. That's weird then. Then how do you... I'm not. Well, whatever.
Don't ask.
Well, we'll talk about this in 6 months. This is the time capsule. This is the idea. We're going to revisit this, write it down, who picked what, and make fun of each other. Can't wait for Vitality to not qualify for the major. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously going to be a lot of heartbreak on this road. Now, do we have anything else we want to cover off here today? I think we achieved what we wanted to achieve. Talk about the upcoming year, set the table for everybody to understand, where their teams are going to be playing in and what events they need to be looking forward to. Because once this starts, this doesn't stop. Right? There's Counter-Strike going consistently. The events we put in that roadmap are just the tier 1 big boy events. That's not including all the other Counter-Strike that's going to be going on around the clock here.
I have something to put out, like a feeler, tentacles out, because we were talking about Katowice and doing a live show. What do people think would someone show up on the 8th of February,
Wednesday,
which is a Wednesday, and which is the playoffs start on Friday? Would people be interested in like having a live with audience show? Would crowd, rock up, buy a €10 ticket or whatever, and come watch some HLTV Confirmed? Let me know what you think. Thursday? Because there's a venue that's very nice, but it's not available on a Thursday. And also I think in terms of getting people to attend, like in terms of guests, players, and stuff like that, it might be easier to do it 2 days before the playoffs, because it's not going to be, rehearsals and stuff like it. It's going to be kind of a media day thing.
What's more important for you, the players and whoever you have on the podcast, or the crowd filling up the arena?
I mean, I think it really depends. I think we can, if we're going for like 100 people that we usually go for, I think we can do that even if it's a Wednesday. So I don't know.
I know a lot of Danish people are traveling to Katowice. They already bought tickets, right? They've sold out, I think, but they're coming in Thursday, Thursday during the morning. Or Thursday during the day.
That's usually how we do it, right? We do it the night before, but it can be sometimes tricky to coordinate, guests and everything. So we'll see. I mean,
there's going to be, there's always plenty of people in Katowice over the course of the whole thing. So I don't think we're going to have a problem, to be honest.
But it would be useful, though, if anybody is listening now or in the future, when you're listening to this on one of our many audio-only options over there at Anchor.fm, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, many, many more, that you would let us know if there was genuine interest here. Because if there is, that will determine on when we're going to do things and how we're going to do things. So if you are listening to this and it's something that you think maybe you would like to come to, or you are from Poland and you're going to have the availability to be there, please let us know, whether that's tweeting at the Twitter account, messaging Prof, doing whatever you got to do, making a HLTV forum saying, Prof, come here. It's all the quickest ways to get the attention. So yes, that would be greatly appreciated. And I think we've come to the end of today's episode. So I want to thank you, Jacob, for joining us. Much appreciated to have you on your outside bike here. I hope that you've been using it outside a lot. Now, Jacob, where can people find you if they want to be seeking you out? You still streaming every day? You still fucking going hammer and tong?
Yeah, I'm trying. You can find me on Twitch, or you can find me on my outside bike. One of the two.
Okay, one of the two. All right. And that's about it. We're going to get out of here. Thank you again for everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Xtrfy, BitSkins, and N1Bet. That's going to be it for the first show of HLTV Confirmed in 2023. We'll see you next time.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
N1Bet, your bet, your game.